Microphone check, microphone checker. Check the mic before you go live. Let's see. Do I have audio? Do I have audio? I think I do. Last time I did this, nobody heard me for 10 minutes. All right. Greetings, everyone. Greetings. We are back here again with another installment of some technology news on the podcast. Let's see. We got 4 people in. Thank y'all for showing up. Greatly appreciate it. Let's see. What do we have on today's agenda? So we got a little bit of T-Mobile news. We got a little bit of Apple news because WWDC was this past Monday. So some Apple news, some AI news. I've done a lot of AI lately. It hasn't been really good of late. Been more terror than it has been help. So we got a little bit of artificial intelligence news going. Let's see what else I got on the today's agenda. Some electric vehicle news. If you're curious about that, that's probably going to be closer towards the end of the show since not many people care about it, but I care about it, so I like to talk about it. That's just me. And maybe some NFL Sunday ticket news. Some interesting tidbits came trickling down. Maybe if I got enough time to get to it. But let's start with today's topic. Here we go. Let's pull it up. Pull it up. All right. So echostar, formerly known as Dish Wireless, has picked up the beef, and now they're running with it. So echostar is now the parent company of Dish, and they are not approving of T-Mobile's stampede to consolidate. Now, if you're not quite sure how the cellular industry is, it's a kind of a broken mess, right? It's little tidbits here, little tidbits there, little tidbits everywhere. And the problem is the two bigger carriers, which was and kind of still is, but let's be realistic about it. The two big carriers are Verizon and AT&T. And for the most part, they sat on top of the roost for a long time. You know, they got the government contracts, they making all the buku dollars, and nothing wrong with that. But, you know, it makes it kind of hard for companies that are not their size to actually be able to step in and do things. So now, you know, T-Mobile has gotten multiple mergers. They got at the time, it was AT&T trying to buy T-Mobile, and then now T-Mobile has gone on a buying spree. If you want to say within the last, I say 10 years, they have been making moves, and rightfully so. You know, they supposed to be trying to make moves because that's just the name of the game. You don't sit there and go, hey, well, you know what? Let's get this one little thing and let's not try the rest. That's kind of weird. So they are stampeding to try to consolidate the rest of the cellular industry because it's all desperate little tidbits all over the place. So the last big news that came before was T-Mobile trying to purchase a chunk of U.S. Cellular. Well, guess who don't like this idea? echostar slash Dish. And I feel like the industry was only as big as the spectrum you can grab and get a hold of. So it makes it kind of hard for you to be able to, hey, we want to be the fourth carrier. Okay, fine. Take your time, build up, grow up before you got to crawl before you can walk. That's every child, right? You don't see a child all of a sudden be birthed and then become Usain Bolt. It don't happen. But Dish slash EchoStar decided that they were going to go full blast because whatever reason, that's what they decided to do. Now they don't have enough funds to start making purchases like T-Mobile's doing, which is trying to consolidate the industry. So the next best thing to do is to kind of be a hater. So Dish slash EchoStar has decided that they're going to block T-Mobile at every turn. If they decide to want to pick their nose, they're going to have to write a thesis on why they got to pick their nose if it's up to EchoStar right now. So if you've been following the merger talks from T-Mobile and Sprint merger all the way up to now, you will see a running theme, which is Dish hasn't really been playing the fairity card very well. They want a lot without giving up a lot, and I don't have a lot of sympathy for them. I mean, that's just me personally. I think that at the end of the day, it's about the end user, the customer. And if you're just in it just so you can try to, sell later, then I don't care nothing for your company. Because that means you're not putting no passion behind it. You're not putting any you're just doing it just so you can build it up so somebody else can take it. And that's kind of what I feel like EchoStar slash Dish is doing. They're just beefing up their network so somebody else can come in and pay for it. Now granted, that is my opinion. Nobody else's opinion but mine's. But when you read these articles, that's kind of what you end up seeing. So with that being said, now, EchoStar wants to block T-Mobile from making this acquisition because of the 600 megahertz spectrum that they would like to get a hold of. Now, if you go back through and you start looking at like the timeline, they've been beefing for a while now. It's 4 years, and T-Mobile still holds a massive grudge. I've always wanted to know what that grudge actually truly is. I can only speculate what it is, but that grudge is huge. T-Mobile is not showing any love to Dish slash EchoStar at all. So I would just like to, if put in the comments below how you might feel. Me personally, I think that Charlie Ergen made some promises that he didn't keep, and T-Mobile is letting them have all of it now. They're like, yo, you backed out of deals. Hey, go kick rocks. That's kind of where I stand at on it. Other YouTubers have different viewpoints than I do. Totally fine. This is just my viewpoint on it. But with today's settlement, and then like EchoStar is complaining now, they want the FCC to step in and start enforcing this is a wireless screening test. So it prevents carriers from consolidating too much of certain band frequencies. And now EchoStar supposedly being the nation's fourth carrier, they want that screening to start happening a lot more because T-Mobile is basically consolidating the 600 megahertz spectrum. Now, I I don't see how their argument is because U.S. Cellular has been showing that they were faltering for a while, and if Dish wanted the spectrum, all they had to do was buy the company. It's been up for sale basically for almost 6 months. So you don't have enough money to buy the 800, but now you want to stop another company from doing their due diligence to, build out, you know, do what's best for your company. I don't quite agree with it from a consumer standpoint because it does eliminate some choice, but at the end of the day, what you end up getting and what you're supposed to get is a company that can compete against other major two at a more affordable price. You know, being able to offer more robust pricing, more options. I do a lot with my cell phones. I have all three carriers, and because I have all three carriers, I I feel a certain type of way when it comes to Verizon, AT&T. I feel that you've been on top for a long time. Your network should show, and I see kinks in their armor. That's just me. But what's up, EM?
Yo,
What's happening, sir?
not much. It's been a minute, so I figured I'd pop in and say hi.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, I'm giving my opinion on the what is it? On the echostar slash Dish and T-Mobile debacle. I know
There,
that me and you have a difference of opinion, sir, when it comes to it.
I didn't know there was a debacle. You have to
It
catch.
is.
You have to get me up to speed on this.
Well, Dish and echostar, Dish slash echostar is had they've been kind of at each other's throats since the merger, the Sprint T-Mobile merger. I've always speculated on what that fraud fight was over. I can only speculate what it is. Nobody's really given enough information to be able to say what it is. But not to beat a dead horse in the ground, but now EchoStar wants to introduce that spectrum screening because T-Mobile wants to purchase U.S. Cellular, and we obviously know that T-Mobile wants the 600, maybe the PCS, um, different other aspects of U.S. Cellular. They want, but the spectrum screening is EchoStar's main concern.
Okay.
Austin S Tech, hello. Let's see what he say. Oh, it's gonna get spicy. Oh man, it's not gonna happen like what you think it's gonna happen, sir. Me and EM are cool as cucumbers in a refrigerator. But what do you think, sir? I lean on your knowledge. You know more than I do. I do have my opinions, but I just curious about what your thinking is.
In regards to the whole, should they be screened? Is that
Well,
what you're asking?
the consolidation of wireless assets, like yes, the screening being involved, yes, because that's kind of what T-Mobile's doing. They're going around the nation gobbling up anything they can to consolidate the industry.
I mean, in my opinion, when in regards to specifically this U.S. Cellular, whatever, I think that EchoStar has every right to be. What's the word I'm looking for? They have every right to hold whatever position they're holding because this puts them at an extreme disadvantage in those markets.
Right.
And I don't think it's fair to them to allow T-Mobile to just come in and scoop up all of the spectrum, specifically the 600 megahertz. I think that's what they're most concerned about, to be honest.
Hmm. I just I mean the way that I feel like the industry needs to be recorrected, and there I don't know if it's going to ever happen due to the fact that the cellular industry, they don't like to play well with each other. They would rather have broken spectrum all over the place than let their competitor see something good. And I mean, you can see that with PCS. PCS is like the lifeblood of all three carriers, but they do not like the idea that one carrier would have better PCS holdings than the other. So they know that I'm holding the block that you need to make it, your PCS be better. I would rather sit on that till I die before I let you have it, or even have a chance to even get it. So it's the consolidation of is very, very fraught. I mean, you have Comcast who has 600, Dish has 600, T-Mobile has 600. A couple of the other entities have 600. So how would you make this work? I mean, I see it's kind of like finders keepers losers weavers right now.
I mean, specifically in those counties that they're probably looking to push back against. I mean, we're talking about T-Mobile having 25 of the 30 megahertz of 600 available,
Right.
which leaves Dish with 5. I don't see that as fair at all, to be honest.
So what would you consider a more fair outcome?
I would
Because
like to see
because I,
Dish
because I because
get.
I mean I don't see how Dish would have jumped up and be able to purchase U.S. Sailor. Waiting for disaster doesn't is not. I don't see it being a viable option.
I just don't think that T-Mobile should be allowed to purchase as much as they're looking to purchase. That's my concern.
Right. Oh no, I understand that. It's kind of like I don't, we can the company's dying, right?
Yeah,
So it's like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. So doing nothing is bad, but having a company like T-Mobile go in there and grab them is considered bad too. And my thing is I would like to know what would be the happy medium. Like, we're in the middle, because it has to pass DOJ and FCC approval, right? We all know that. So what would you think that would be like a concessions? They wasn't allowed to keep the 800 megahertz spectrum because of the Sprint merger, right? They got to auction that off, which that's actually further down on this article. Um, echostar is complaining that T-Mobile won't let them know what the auction rules are going to be, but like I said, they've been petty fighting for a while now. Um, but when it comes to the 600, what type of concessions do you think that might end up coming down the pipeline?
I mean, I would like to see Dish get at least a 10 by 10 chunk in those areas. You know what I mean? I think 10
Right.
by 10 is fair. I don't think that T-Mobile having a 25 by 25 swath of spectrum is fair in any sense of the word. Um,
Okay.
that would
I
be
mean
really
that.
the only thing that I would deem as fair. If T-Mobile wants to play ball and buy the rest of it, sure, but I think Dish should be allowed, or I think Dish should have at least a 10 by 10 chunk.
Well, we know that. What was it? The last Spectrum screening hit was by AT&T, and they ended up having to give up Spectrum in like Hawaii, right? Was it PCS they had to give up in Hawaii?
I think it was AWS.
Okay. So we know that the FCC would entertain the idea that T-Mobile might not be able to grab the whole um kit and caboodle, right? And echostar might have a claim to it, and they would have to probably sell it to them. But we go back to the whole thing of having to sell it to them. If it comes down to it, you'd be like T-Mobile. T-Mobile could just be like, all right, cool. We'll just renegotiate with U.S. Cellular and be like, hey, we're just not going to buy these chunks of 600, and you can sell it to whoever you need to sell it to.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger resolution that we need. Is there needs to be some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, guardrails on what T-Mobile's allowed to purchase. You know what I mean? Like it can't just be like a free for all. And that's, I think, what echostar is trying to avoid happening, is just like a free for all where, you have freaking T-Mobile coming in and just buying every single thing that they can get their hands on. I think that's more or less the bigger concern. You know what I mean?
No, I understand that, but we are at a point now that smaller carriers are not going to make it. Like if there's another smaller carrier out there that thinks that they're going to hold on for dear life, you got another thing coming. I mean, your revenue is going to start dwindling, just like what happened with U.S. Cellular. When the merger happened between Sprint and T-Mobile, the first thing I thought about was U.S. Cellular, because I was like, well, you're a super regional carrier. You're only in a handful of states. And even those states that you're in, you're rural America. So your footprint is small with small on top of small. So the consolidation needed to start happening. Well, and from my point of view, the consolidation should have been happening years ago, way before T-Mobile and Sprint got together. I mean, US Cellular was holding out for hope. That was just something that I always looked at was, roaming agreements kind of made up for the fact that you wasn't building out your network in other places. But majority of the people now, they don't sit still. That's just something I noticed anyway. But I just think that, you know, should T-Mobile be basically policed, especially when it comes to the 600 megahertz spectrum? Possibly, they're probably going to end up triggering FCC on that one. That's what I think. I mean, with echostar filing this with the FCC now, that's probably going to be the biggest major concern.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I'm gonna be real honest with you. I'm okay with echostar getting some sort of handout
Oh
in all
no!
of this. Yeah, I absolutely, because they got absolutely run over during the Sprint T-Mobile merger.
Oh
They have not been given the tools to compete. They have not been given the what's the word I'm looking for? They have not been given the ability to really show, like, okay, if we build our own greenfield network, what can we do with it? You know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's the problem I have with them, is that they just have not been given the opportunities to do what they need to do.
You know,
And
I look. We both know that how I feel about it. My stance was I think that Dish slash EchoStar shot themselves in the foot. I mean, look, I know that everybody's sentiments was that T-Mobile supposed to facilitate the next cellular carrier, right? But my sentiments has always been this: facilitation does not mean that I should save your life. And a company is not responsible for another company's actions. So, like I said, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's not really documented. Only thing we get is little nips and pieces, right? I mean, my speculation was that I think that they, had some type of gentleman's agreement. They shook hands. There wasn't nothing in stone, in a contract agreement, and then all of a sudden everything just went sideways. Like it just went sideways for no reason, and all of a sudden, T-Mobile's just been petty ever since. Like even now, like here you go. So not the low band, the 800 megahertz spectrum, right? they held that up for years, for the last 3 years, and then at the end they decided not to buy it because they don't have any money. Why not just get out of the way? But T-Mobile was told by the FCC, "Hey, you got to keep giving them a chance, keep giving them a chance, keep giving them a chance." And then at the end of the day, they go, "Nah, we don't want it." But now you want, you want to be able to participate in the auction of the 800, and you want information, but you had first dibs. That was always the deal. Dish gets first dibs at the 800 megahertz and have a chance to buy it before anybody else can even, claim a bid to it. So my thing is now T-Mobile's like, yo, you don't get no more special treatment. So like I said, it's this fraught back and forth that we don't quite know what to really expect, right? Or what is really going on. That's kind of where I stand at on it myself. But handouts, oh no, I think you're gonna have to claw yourself out of the grave, sir. echostar's gonna have to claw themselves out of the grave to go get that spectrum.
I don't know. I think they deserve a fighting chance, and I don't think they were set up to have a fighting chance. So we can agree to disagree on that.
That's true. That's true. Now, the other big news that happened in the wireless industry this week was, let me pull this up. The FCC is entertaining the idea of changing the rules for CBRS. I did not see this one coming. I know that the wireless industry as a whole has been wanting to have the rules changed, but I didn't think the FCC would think about it. And the biggest one that they really want changed is the power levels. I don't even think they care the fact that the military walks in and goes, "Hey, you got to turn your stuff down or turn it off." They just want to be able to use it at longer distances, which means the power levels are low, right? So CBRS, for those who don't quite know, runs at lower power, even though it sits in the mid-band spectrum, and the reach is a lot shorter than it would be for like 2.5 and C-band. So it sits at 3.5, and it has multiple different tiers, which is complicated as all outdoors. Some of it can be used, some of it can't be used, some could be used at certain times. There's a whole lot of restrictions, but the power level has always been the issue. What do you think is going to happen with the FCC in this? They're entertaining rule changes. What do you think is going to happen?
I think, given the fact that this has been kind of on the docket for quite a long time, that
Very long time.
This is going to happen.
What, even for the power level? Do you think that they're going to end up getting the power, because they've been lobbying it for a long time?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's why I think it's going to happen.
Oh, it would be nice to see CBRS reach a lot further. I know that would be beneficial to cable companies. I know Dish has a lot of CBRS in certain areas, and Verizon uses CBRS in a lot of areas also. So those are three major ones that will benefit from higher power CBRS being able to use. So I'm just curious to see, like, there's just, I just see that spectrum band just being more confusing than it is worth dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I think that it's a necessity for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would go as far as to say that it's too complicated to bother dealing with, but
You don't think it's too fraught to deal with it?
No, I think it's a fantastic spectrum band to use.
Well,
I think
I think that any spectrum is great to use. I'm just saying, like, when you have restrictions on top of restrictions on top of restrictions, it makes it kind of hard for you to justify, supplying equipment for it. Is it worth it constantly investing in
I mean,
per se?
but this whole article is about loosening those restrictions,
That's true.
which makes it more appealing, in my opinion.
That's true.
So to kind of answer your roundabout question, I think that this is a fantastic idea.
Uh, hey, it depends on what the FCC decides. Is what I mean. They got to get the They got to get the DOJ involved. Not the DOJ. I'm sorry, the DOD involved with anything they decide to do, because the Navy is involved with this problem. They use the radar, like they use that frequency for radar. So I'm like, this just it just seems more problematic. Like, it if you thought that 2.5 being broken up all over United States was a problem, this one seems worse, because you got to do a lot of double dutching, and then at certain times when the military wants to come in, you have to turn your stuff off. So now your frequency is nulled out.
I mean, I think the idea with um, the idea with CBRS is that if they can make the spectrum more useful in any way, shape, or form, because the biggest problem with CBRS is the range.
Right, and
And
that comes down to the power.
correct. So if they can increase the power levels even just a little bit, I think it's going to help. Um, especially when you're talking about a macro deployment. From a small cell, I would argue that CBRS already performs phenomenally. I think it's probably one of the best assets that the carriers can use on a small cell aside from millimeter wave. But um,
Right.
from a macro standpoint, it has not seen its true potential just due to the power limitations. So I'm all for it.
No, I understand. Hey, look, I hope to hear a little bit more news about it. I I think that if this happens, this gives Verizon a power move, because they've been the only besides they're the only major carrier that really does rely on CBRS in certain areas. So I mean, AT&T and T-Mobile don't as much. I think they have some assets some places, but Verizon's the only one that I know that plays heavy in the CBRS range. Besides the cable companies, I think the cable companies are the only ones behind Verizon that really, geared up per se. But
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So
what do you think?
it's yeah. I mean, the reality is that a lot of the other carriers missed out on an opportunity to take advantage of
Yeah,
CBRS. So if they can get the power increased, I think that this is a huge win for the carriers that chose to
that's
deploy
true.
it.
That's true. But I mean, they raise the power. It's gonna make Verizon look like a god tier genius. That'll be impossible to know the future. I mean, if you're going to invest in spectrum access assets, would you have made that gamble? I mean, yeah, hindsight's 2020 right now, but before the rules are even thought about, you knew what it was, you knew how it was going to be. Would you, if you were operating a cellular carrier, would you had invested in CBRS, even though knowing what you know right now about it?
I mean, that's the beauty of CBRS, though, is that you didn't have to investigate. You didn't have to invest a ridiculous amount of money into it. It was very cheap comparatively.
True.
It was very, very cheap, especially when you're talking when you compare what's the metric they use, price per megahertz pop compared to C
Yeah.
band, compared to N41, compared to even millimeter wave. It was super cheap to get in on CBRS.
Right.
So, if you dip your feet in a little bit, get yourself some pals, and then kind of take it from there, I think that there was a really, really good opportunity to, you know, kind of put the feelers out, see how it's going to work out, and then kind of go from there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I uh I I just don't I just didn't me personally, I never saw a Sprint or a T-Mobile wanted to dabble into it because I mean the cable at the time before the merger, Sprint and T-Mobile pretty much worked around the same cable companies. And of course the cable companies invested in it because they're locked into like geo locked into where they are. So I would expect them to play, but I never thought that Verizon would just jump up and play in it as heavy as they have. So
I mean, it's free spectrum. That's the beauty of it. It's literally free spectrum.
that's true.
So, again, I think it goes to show that the other carriers really misstepped in not taking advantage of that free spectrum. And I think this bodes well for Verizon and for um, Dish, if Dish ever
Yeah.
gets around to actually deploying it, which is that's a whole nother question. So
That's very true. No, I just that it was just something that was very curious. I mean, hey, look, you would love to be able to forecast ahead and figure out what you're going to do next. But that's a hard forecast. I mean, you're making a big gamble on direction of the industry and what direction you're going. I mean, look what happened with Sprint. They made a bet on WiMAX and it didn't work, and that put them out of contention when LTE became the full standard. I
yeah, I mean,
mean,
but again, that just goes back to the whole Verizon never planned on throwing all of their eggs into CBRS. That basket. That was never the plan. I don't think it was more of an opportunity to take advantage of free spectrum at a low cost, to deploy. That is,
right.
and offload their LTE network, which arguably has the most traffic on it out of all the carriers. So, and you got to think about it too. CBRS was was the conversation piece before C-band was even a thing, right? So we're
Right.
talking 2 to 3 years before C-band. If I'm
Two or 3 years
Verizon,
before C-band was even like considered.
yeah, exactly. So if I'm Verizon or even AT&T, which I still don't understand why AT&T didn't get into CBRS.
AT&T was obsessed over LAA.
Yeah, but LAA is just so bad. Like it's not even
It
close. Like
I
if
mean,
I were a Verizon or an AT&T or even a T-Mobile in certain situations. I mean, T-Mobile didn't really. If we want to go, hop in the time machine, go back to what would that be? 2018, 2019.
yeah.
This is before millimeter wave. This is before N41, before C-band.
Hmm.
If I had an opportunity to deploy 60, 80 megahertz of spectrum for little to no cost with low power radios that weigh absolutely nothing, I can put it on a small cell, I can put it on a macro. Like hell yeah, I would have done that.
Right.
Like it's a no brainer. I don't, has the conversation kind of shifted now that midband is the thing with all three carriers? Maybe a little bit, but still,
Yeah.
even
I
with the
mean,
midband piece, though, it's free spectrum.
that's
You might as well take
that's
advantage
true.
of it.
I mean, it, the next thing that I would ask you is how, even if they do decide to want to raise the power level, right? Would it matter as much? Like, would it like if it was 2015 and they did the power levels like at a higher power level, then it would mean the world, right? But now Verizon got 160 megahertz of mid band in C band. Then you got AT&T doing the hodgepodge dance of you know DoD and C band, and then T-Mobile's all doing 2.5. With all that spectrum allocated, does C band the CBRS become more important or less?
I think it becomes more important because with the higher power levels, as they eventually decide to, transition from, band 48 CBRS LTE to N48 CBRS over NR,
Yeah,
that that's just another additional, again, 40, 60, 80 megahertz of spectrum, even if you're just using it on the downlink, right? That they
right.
can have in their tool chest to offload their LTE network. And
But you know what? I also look at it from a standpoint of like room on the tower, right? Like there's got to be physical antennas for said spectrum for the most part. I know that you can do combos. I know you can do dual band, but to be able to provide enough spectrum for a larger swath of people, because I'm seeing it right now, like on T-Mobile. T-Mobile is just defaulted straight to 2.5 in certain places. Like the last test I was running, they it was all 2.5. They didn't aggregate 66 with nothing. They didn't aggregate N25 with it. It was just straight 2.5. And that's kind of where I'm like, the larger spectrum bands, like more bandwidth that you have, I felt like it's more important. I mean, AT&T is probably going to be the one that's going to be hurting more because their spectrum is broken up all over the place. That's more antennas. Those are
yeah,
physical antennas that got to go into like on top of rooftops, and the towers are weight limited. So, which bands are going to be more important for what scenarios?
I mean that's more or less the that's a problem for AT&T specifically, I think. Um
True,
just due
but
to
I
their
mean,
due to their extremely fragmented uh LTE spectrum holdings, they have to deploy a significantly larger array of antennas, and as more radios per sector, which adds to the weight pretty significantly.
right?
When it comes to CBRS, though, I mean, let me pull this up so you can see what I'm
Okay,
referencing here.
all right, go ahead.
So let me know if you can see that.
I can see it.
So the weight of that radio with an integrated antenna is less than 5 kilograms. They're extremely lightweight, and
Right,
they don't add that much weight to each sector, right? And with the
right.
radios, with at least with Ericsson's solution, they're already capable of broadcasting a 100 megahertz carrier of NR. Not that that's allowed within whatever, but um, it doesn't cost that much more to deploy this, which is why I don't understand why T-Mobile and AT&T were so, is bearish the right word? They were very like not
Nonchalant.
not yeah, they weren't looking to do it, which just makes no sense. It's
You
a,
know what?
it's
I looked at it. I look at it from a asset to cost ratio, right? Like T-Mobile had deeper spectrum pockets than AT&T does. Granted, they didn't have as much spectrum, like physical channels that they own, but their spectrum holdings were a lot deeper than AT&T's. AT&T's is very shallow, but a whole lot of it, right? And when you start looking at it, I start looking at it from a weight on tower, right? Even though that's a very small one, what's going to happen like now if they decide to go higher power? Doesn't that bring up doesn't that change the aspects of the antennas physically?
no, not
It don't,
necessarily. Uh-uh.
because
I
that's
mean,
what I mean.
depending on the situation, if they need to, if they, if depending on what the power levels increase to. I mean, we don't know what that power level is going to be increased to, right? So
Right,
whatever it is, if there's an opportunity to, get a higher powered radio from Ericsson or Samsung or Nokia, you might want to go replace that radio that's already on a macro. But again, it's not going to be that much more than what's already there in terms of weight and in terms of like tower space. I mean,
true.
AT&T, this like hodgepodge spectrum holdings that AT&T is trying to continue to rep, as far as their AWS is very fragmented, their PCS is very fragmented. They have
Yeah.
very slim channels of mid-band compared to the other two, right? Like
Right.
the there's like what, maybe 3 or 4 counties in the entire country where AT&T has an actual 100 megahertz of C-band.
Yeah.
They're gonna fall behind Verizon
I
and T-Mobile. They
I
they just
mean,
will.
what was it? I was doing an article a couple weeks ago, and Brandon was with me, and because AT&T is choosing Ericsson as its sole provider, right?
Yeah,
And
which is a huge mistake in my opinion, but
I think that it's kind of bad for AT. Well, I'm not gonna. AT&T's approach has always been give it to somebody else, and we'll just tell you what to do, what we want, right? That's been AT&T's approach. But the what the AT&T was trying to do, and I read this article they were talking about, is basically they know that they have a spectrum broken problem, but America has a spectrum broken problem too. So you have entities that have spectrum that they're not using. So I saw AT&T leaning more into that. They were going to they wanted to build that network in such a way that, hey, you spectrum holding company A, you have spectrum, you can run it on our network, get paid for it, and we benefit from having it on our network.
yeah,
So
but I mean,
at least it would get to the place where it would get used.
any carrier can do that though, Keon. That's not an AT&T thing specifically. Any carrier can do that. There's just the problem is that there's not a lot of spectrum left. They're
True.
like it like that's what I think people misunderstand, is that like all these carriers are deploying the same exact radios, the same exact equipment for the most part, depending on who the manufacturer is. If spectrum holding company A says, "Ooh, we want to lease our spectrum to X, Y, and Z," there's a good chance that any of the carriers can lease that spectrum and take advantage of it. That's just the reality of it. But
That's true, but here's the thing: T-Mobile is not going to have the same AWS radios as a AT&T, right?
I mean,
They might the
AWS
equipment.
radio is an AWS radio. It doesn't matter.
Well, I was looking at it from along the lines of like the frequencies they operate in. Now
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know enough. I don't know
An
enough.
AWS radio is an AWS radio. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so I don't know
So
enough. But if the majority of your radios are 2.5
it doesn't matter.
or some other spectrum holdings.
Well, I mean, what you're really gonna what would really limit a T-Mobile in that situation would be how many AWS radios do they have deployed per sector, per site? How many active carriers per radio is currently, because a radio can only broadcast so many specific carriers within a frequency. So,
Right.
like, that would be the bigger question. It's not whether or not the radio is capable of broadcasting within that spectrum. It's how many carriers are already being broadcast, and how much, how much headroom do they have, right? So, like, I'll give you an example, and these aren't like real numbers or anything, but let's say T-Mobile has a AWS PCS radio on each sector,
Right.
and that radio is already broadcasting 2 carriers, one PCS carrier, one AWS carrier, and the maximum that radio can broadcast is 2 separate carriers. They,
Right.
in that situation, would not be able to take advantage of spectrum company A is saying, "Hey, do you want this spectrum to broadcast on your network?"
Right.
That's the limitation there. Is like how many actual RF carriers are you broadcasting per radio? Do you have the headroom in your existing RAN to broadcast that additional carrier? And uh, so in your main point about AT&T being set up that way, that's not necessarily true. Um, could it be true in certain situations? Absolutely, it could be that it just so happens that AT&T had to deploy more radios than what they would like because of their fragmented spectrum holdings, and therefore they have the headroom
Yeah.
in their RAN deployment. But 9 times out of 10, that's not going to be the case because these companies are trying to build their networks the most cost efficient way as possible. So they're not going to put radios up for no reason, if that
No,
makes
no, no,
sense.
and totally understand that. I was just saying that because AT&T is in that weird predicament where they would have to deploy more radios than their counterparts would, it would put them in a situation where they would be able to bring on newer customers if those customers wanted to say, hey, we want to get paid for our spectrum that we hold. But T-Mobile and maybe even a Verizon would not be able to facilitate them because, like you just said, they're already broadcasting PCS and AWS, and those are the two carriers that they can just do by themselves, right? But that's because they
Yeah,
built their
but
network for that only.
I think you're looking at it too broadly. You're not looking at it. You're kind of you're taking too of a like a high level overview. It's not that simple, right? Like there's more to it than that, is what I'm trying to say. And
True.
in any situation, in any given market, in any given county, even there will be situations where carrier A has overhead in their RAN deployment to add an additional carrier, and then there's going to be situations in like even a county over where their RAN doesn't have that headroom. So um, you got to keep that in mind when you're talking about this, because it's really not that cut and dry. I wish it was, trust me, because it would make things a
I,
whole lot easier to talk about. It really would.
I mean, I am overly simplifying it. I know that, but I was just saying that if you instead of looking at AT&T spectrum as a weakness, you can also look at it as a strength because of their brokenness. They can go in and try to pair up different things from different companies to broaden their reach. So they don't have to go in and go purchase it. They just basically go and say, hey, well, we need block A and block B to fill out block C, right? And who holds what block?
Yeah, I mean the reality is that all comes down to like the carriers being willing to do spectrum swaps with each other and take it, which again is it's hit or miss. Usually the carriers are pretty good with each other as long as they're all getting something out of it.
I mean, hey, T-Mobile and AT&T worked together to what did they do? They had some 2.5 and they gave to T-Mobile and T-Mobile gave up some. What was it? It had to be AWS, wasn't it? Was it AWS they gave up?
Well,
It was just recently.
that was because AT&T threw a fit about um uh T-Mobile getting all that spectrum in Hawaii. That was
Yeah,
what that was.
but I thought that recently they did something new. Like it was a new deal that they just did, not the one in Hawaii. It was something else. But that
Deal.
one could have been it. I could my timeline could be weird, but I thought that just recently AT&T and T-Mobile swapped spectrum also.
I mean, the only one that I've heard of is some potential swaps when it comes to millimeter wave, but I don't think has come to fruition quite yet. So
Right.
I would maybe hold your tongue on that one because I don't know how good your information is on that one. So
Oh, look, I understand. I speculate. I have no insider information. If you feel like giving me some secrets, people, feel free to email me. I don't have anything. Look, I read the articles and speculate off of that. I try to have a more even keel speculation. I don't want to look. I could say what I want, but I also got to root. You got to also be rooted in some type of reality too. So that's just me. I just don't know exactly what could possibly be done. I just think that AT&T's Achilles heel can also be their benefit if they decide to really lean in on it the way that they were talking about in that article, because the article was basically stating that because the America's spectrum holding is broken all over the country. We have swaths of spectrum that's not being used. So who would benefit from that? And AT&T possibly could be the one that benefits from that.
Yeah, no,
They
you're.
don't.
I mean, yeah, I think in general, I think that there's going to be beneficiaries across the board. I don't think it's just an AT&T thing. That makes sense.
Yeah, true.
It all depends on where the spectrum ends up and who ends up getting it. So,
Right. Oh, look. Just to segue into the next one. Uh, did you watch the Apple keynote? Because I
the
could tell you that I did not all the way through. It was boring as hell.
WWDC,
Yeah, WWDC.
I watched the Spark Notes and I downloaded the iOS 18 beta software on my phone.
You know what? I need to catch up with you or somebody. I don't use my iPhone as my primary, so I do want to see. And No Radio showed me that one of the biggest things that, for me personally, the nerd side of me, is that the service screen is actually a service screen.
Oh, the
I
field test mode.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see that.
Yeah, it's actually usable. That's
That
crazy.
is crazy, which I believe that it will not be there when the full version of iOS 18 comes out. That is my prediction.
Yeah, I mean
I
it's still pretty buggy. I want to give it a few more weeks before I make a definitive conclusion on it. Um, but I will say that overall, I am very pleased with the updates thus far.
Right. I
No
just think
RCS yet. No RCS yet. Still waiting on that.
I think that's a server side implementation. That's why I'm thinking, like, yes, the hardware can do it, the software can, but it has to be implemented on server side for it to finally kick in. But
Yeah.
hold on one second. So Austin says, no, it will be. I wish I saw your message before, and then the one after that says it's going to be buggy. I was expecting it to be, and then he says also again, it's coming in a future beta. It's not in the first beta.
Yeah, I mean overall though, I will say because I've done every iOS beta up until or Jesus, I've been doing iOS betas since iOS 7.
Ooh,
And it's been probably the most stable beta experience I've had so far. So I'll give Apple that. It is a very clean beta software for what it is. Like usually I expect that at some point my iPhone's going to brick itself and I'm going to have to, restore it manually. Like that is just an expectation for me when it comes to beta software,
right.
at least with iOS.
I, I
But
don't I, I don't normally play around in betas because not my primary devices is what I experiment with, which is kind of like a very dangerous recipe. Like
I mean,
I
so do
drive
I.
around with my phone and I gotta do Uber and all of a sudden it just hangs up. I'm royally screwed at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I have the beta installed on my main iPhone, my personal phone. So, I again, I've been happy with it so far. It's been a really solid, pleasant beta experience thus far. I just wish that more of the features that they promised were enabled from the launch, which again,
I
it's
mean,
not unlike Apple to wait 3 or 4 months into the beta. iOS 17 or 16, whatever it was, all of those promised camera features didn't come out until like October or November of
oh
that year.
yeah,
I
yeah.
forget what it was. So again, it's not unlike Apple. I just personally wish that there were more features enabled at the launch of the beta, but you don't
That's
always get what you want, right?
that's true. Well, I mean, you don't know how, one tweak over here is going to affect another tweak over there, right? And that's one of the reasons why a lot of companies do betas is you want to try to hurry. You don't know how the hardware is going to react to it. different yields in hardware can cause software glitches. Like case in point, all three of my folds started acting weird earlier this month because I got the 6.1 update, right? Well, guess what they were all doing? The screen wouldn't turn off. So
I didn't have
I'm
that
out here,
issue with my fold.
I did all three of mine. The screen wouldn't turn off, and I mean, I would press the power button to turn it off manually, and it would pop back on again. If it was plugged in, pop back on again. The phone running hot, everything. But I think it comes down to like hardware yields because eventually I think they push another update and then all of a sudden it stopped. It stopped doing that.
I haven't touched my fold in like a week, bro. Battery's dead.
No.
Well, it's got my
But
T-Mobile SIM in it, so that's why I don't touch it. So
I understand. Hey, look, so I got pulled up here on the screen. So how messages via satellite will work on iOS 18. I'm using this kind of like a placeholder to talk about WWDC in a whole, but the big things that we as nerds were more looking towards, which don't get me wrong, the OS for Mac OS is good. You got the calculator for iPads, which
God, it's
is going
about
to be
time. It's about fucking time, dude.
a calculator on the iPad is like,
It took them like what 12 years to get the weather app on an iPad, which we got last year.
wow.
And then what, we finally get a calculator app in 2024. This is groundbreaking.
Yo, that's crazy. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. The things that I was trying to pay attention more to was I wanted to see what they were going to say about RCS, which everything that Apple gets their arm twisted about, they don't really do a lot of screen time on, right? USB-C was an afterthought. They said, thank you, we're doing USB-C, have a nice day. And they moved on. You like, yo, this is huge. How you just do this as a throwaway line? I don't get it. Saying they did the same thing with RCS. They got their arms twisted, and now, it's supposed to be implemented. We don't quite know what they're gonna do. I have been underneath the perception that I don't think many things are gonna change. I think there's still going to be a restriction between the two houses, regardless. It's just that it's not going to be as obvious. It's going to be like little subtle stuff, like these emojis where you could take multiple emojis and put them together to get something. I think that's going to be all iOS. Android is never going to see those. It's going to pop up and say there was an emoji. Because I think Apple is just that petty.
Which is fine, honestly. The only my bare minimum. Holy crap! I need to turn these phones on more often. I'm getting just ridiculous amount of notifications. If all I get is read receipts and higher image quality between iOS and Android devices over messaging, I am happy. Because that's the bare minimum for RCS, and that's all I expect from Apple. I don't expect them to go over the top. I don't even expect them to enable end-to-end encryption at this point. Like,
true.
If they do enable end-to-end encryption, I'm a happier than a clam. You know what I mean? But I don't expect it.
The version, like, okay, so one of the versions that I read, and I don't know why I didn't save the article. Let me see if I can find it. But one of the versions that they said that would end up being for RCS was going to end up being like, what is it? Not consumer, but business level RCS, right? So it's just bare minimum so businesses can conduct business with people. Like, to be able to send things to from companies to directly to you and me and everyday people. That's what Apple is supporting. They're not supporting like high level RCS communications. It's just like, yo, bare minimum. We don't care about what you're doing, and none of our stuff is going to play nice with you. Have a nice day.
I'm okay with it, actually. Like, at this point, we should all expect the bare minimum from Apple when it comes to supporting features. And if the bare minimum is all they're going to do, I'm okay with it, honestly.
But see, you know what? That bothers me as a person who pays attention to technology. That bothers me to high hell. Right here, Apple can do more. They choose not to do more because peer pressure is an actual thing. Like I didn't realize how much peer pressure is just being a blue bubble to green bubble. I was introduced to this years ago, and hearing somebody talk about it shocked me. I was like, is it that serious? Like, yes, it is. It's that serious. We do not like our conversations in the green. And I'm like, wow. And I think that Apple understands that because guess what? People do ask me, like, how come you don't have your iPhone on you? Or you should switch to iPhone. Why? Because the conversations are more fluid. Like, if there's a bouncing ball emoji, everybody sees it. The Android user doesn't see it. So
Yeah,
it's kind of like one of those problems.
But the thing is, though, is if we can just get RCS, that
The
will
read, go
that'll
ahead. The read receipts are the biggest thing.
but it also fixes group chats, and that's been the biggest. I think my biggest complaint with the lack of RCS is not so much the person to person communications, but the group chats. Like RCS, having RCS will allow people to be added to group chats post group chat creation. It'll allow people
Which
to
means,
leave group chats. Like as long as everyone in that group has an RCS enabled device, which should be 99.9% of Android phones at this point,
yeah.
and iPhones, it'll fix all of those
Which
problems.
when you say that it fixes it, are you talking about like when you join a group chat, you can see the conversation that happened previous? Is that what you mean?
No. In traditional SMS group chats, if like let's say I have a group chat, you, me, and one other person, and we want to
Yeah.
add no radio as a fourth person to that group chat. If one person doesn't have an RCS capable device, it'll create a whole new group chat thread.
Oh.
Whereas with
Oh.
RCS, if everyone has an RCS enabled phone, I can add no radio to that group chat without completely, bricking the thread that we had before.
That's true. Okay.
So it's just going to allow for more fluid group communications, and that's what I'm looking forward to personally. But
But see, that's always been one of my biggest problems with Apple, and you know, um, unfairly noted. I know that some people might think that I'm an Apple hater. I hate I hate the fact that Apple plays the game of exclusivity. That's what I hate. It's the if your software is better, it would show. But don't do underhanded stuff to try to make it seem like the other people are inferior. They exist in the same field as you. You're supposed to be showing that you're different. But if you know that RCS is going to end up being the default communication across the globe, then be part of the situation. Don't be part of the problem. Don't be part of the solution. Make it better. If you have ideas, make it better so we all benefit from the progressiveness of technology. But I see Apple as they twisted our arm. Here you go. Have a nice day.
I mean, to be fair, RCS has not been a common. There's not been a common platform for RCS until
Yeah, but
recently, though.
Google
So
had to
like,
damn near put it on their back to do.
yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Like, even with RCS, there was not a common platform until recently. So it's now 100% Apple's fault. It's kind of just like all of the OEMs' fault, really. Um,
But here's the thing: we all know that if Apple gets behind something, all these rest of these industries jump on it in a heartbeat. Like Google says they're going to do something, everybody goes, we'll see it. We'll see what you might be working with. But if all of a sudden Apple sneezes into a napkin, everybody's trying to figure out what the DNA is. They're like, if they say, hey, we're working on support for RCS, boom, the whole industry as a whole would have turned 180 degrees and went in that direction.
yeah,
That's when you know your company has the power. And when you lackluster walk into it, it makes it harder because we could easily be moving on to something else that's not RCS.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of on all of the it's on all of the companies really, but
True. Now, here's the thing. So one of the other things that's been kind of a point of contention is messaging via satellite. What is your take on the different technologies? Because I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it. We know that Verizon and AT&T are choosing one company, T-Mobile's choosing another. How do you think it's going to start faring? Because these communications are going to start running over satellite soon. RCS is going to be running over satellite. Um, AT&T is using AST. T-Mobile is using Starlink. So we're starting to see, division in camps right now. So I wanted to hear what your opinion might be uh, about this.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it.
Uh, can you give a TLDR of the feelings?
I don't know. Every company is going to do their own little flavor. If we all get the same services and benefits at around the same price, I don't really see a problem with it. So
Yeah, true. I mean, I look at it as ease of use. I mean, the easier it is to use said product, the the more adopted it's going to end up being, right? So, like Apple's approach is they're using a whole different satellite company. I think it's a Global Star. So Apple is
yeah,
partnering with Global Star, and they're offering it for free for now. But it's for now free,
yeah. I mean,
right?
the big question is, at least in my book, is how long is it gonna? At what point does each company say, okay, we got to pay the piper, and when do we start having this conversation of, okay, well, who's charging a reasonable amount of money?
Right.
Like, I think that's going to be the big differentiator is once these services stop being free, quote unquote. Um, what does that look like from the consumer, point of view, and how much are consumers going to be willing to pay for it if they aren't getting it for free?
How can I say it? I feel like a lot of it's going to end up being like add-ons or a separate cost to operate. Um, because AST's satellite coverage is not going to be as big as Starlink's. I see AST charging more, and I see Starlink being more integrated into T-Mobile's billing. Kind of like, it's like, oh well, you get free roaming. How roaming used to be that separate thing you had to pay for. Now it's just part of your bill.
I mean, domestic roaming's been free on all carriers for quite a long time.
Yeah, but it didn't always.
It
I
didn't
mean, it didn't.
always, but I
Yeah, it
mean,
didn't always.
the end of the day, if this means that you know the carriers aren't going to be paying for domestic roaming with you know within each other, right?
Yeah,
T-Mobile's not going to pay AT&T, or T-Mobile's not going to pay Verizon, or Verizon's not going to pay AT&T.
yeah,
Like, I think that's where the cost savings is going to come into play for the carriers. So maybe the carriers are more incentivized to pursue this technology so they don't have to pay those domestic roaming
right.
charges, right? But when it comes to the OEMs, my biggest concern is, what is Apple going to charge for this? And
Well,
you
here's the
know,
thing: they already partnered up with Global Star to do this. But at what point did now your phone is going to just talk to a satellite, you know, and it's going to circumvent the need for working with Global Star? You're going to have it's going to be three competing operations. What? One satellite's going to be over here with the other one not. That's the you don't have that type of redundancy.
I mean, maybe that's a selling point for Apple. I don't know.
That's true.
I just it
That's true.
I think at some point that Apple's going to want to charge X amount of
I
money
think
for
so.
this. You know, whether it's $5 a month or $10 a month or per message or whatever. You know, I see this as being, you know, akin to like the nights and weekends type of, we're going to charge you per message or
Oh,
per
oh,
whatever. You know, I think that,
oh.
or you get a certain amount per month, and if you use more than that per month, you get charged a la carte. You
Yeah,
know.
you know, you're giving me PSD right now, PTSD right now, because nights and weekends was like the minutes era of cellular was like the worst. If
Yeah,
you
but
fell
but
asleep talking to your girl, you burned all your minutes up, sir.
well, like, let's be honest though, Keon. At what customer is going to pay for this and on a monthly basis? I don't think there's that many people, and we've talked about that before. I just don't think that there's enough people out there to justify a service like this if you're going to charge it on a monthly basis. Like, yeah, sure, you'll have your extreme adventurers or your whatever's that would be willing to pay for this on a monthly basis, but in general, I don't see very many people willing to cough up X amount of money per month for this type of service. I just don't.
Right. Which is why I said like the different approaches. So it kind of does matter. So like take Starlink for example. So Starlink and T-Mobile have partnered together. I see Starlink and T-Mobile integrating this into their already like higher service package. So like let's say the 5G Go Plus or 5G Go whatever, like whatever the second tier is, it will be part of, right? So you can say, hey, look, this tier gives you nationwide coverage no matter where you are, right? But other tiers would have to opt in. But with Verizon and AT&T, because AST, from what I've understood and reading their pamphlet and their stuff, they're only doing radio satellite coverage. That's the only thing they're doing. Where Starlink has a separate business on top of it. So it's kind of like we already have the internet for extra uses anyway. We might as well try to monetize it versus this is our sole product that we're offering. I see it being more of a like kind of like a akin to like, oh, you're going on your adventure trip, get this package now. You see
Yeah,
what I'm
so
saying?
you're saying that people would treat it like an international day pass type of deal.
Right, right. And that justifies the separation in costs for AT&T and Verizon, where T-Mobile is going to be like, yo, it's just part of our plan. And that might be more enticing for somebody who says, well, you know what? From time to time, I do travel from, you know, Las Vegas to LA, and I do hit some dead spots along the way, but I make that trip so often, I might as well just bump up to the next plan. And if they don't, even if they don't receive a phone call, they're going to feel like they're covered versus, oh, can I justify buying that package for the 5, 10, 15 minutes that I may or may not be in range?
Yeah, which is why I'm saying I just don't think that there's going to be that much draw to these types of services. I don't see it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am looking at it too much from my perspective and not from the customer's
Well,
perspective.
look at it from a
But
like a truck driver's perspective. People who be
yeah,
on the
but
road all the time, who's on the road day in and day out, you know, instead of having 3 cell phone carriers that you got to focus on, because everybody's not going to be a super nerd like me and you, but let's say that they only have enough for one carrier. Does the truck driver go, hey, I'm always on the road, I could justify that extra coverage versus, hey, that coverage is already built in to the service.
yeah, but even then, a truck driver is going to be on interstates 99% of the time. And you know who has the you know who's the interstate
AT&T.
carriers?
Really?
T-Mobile. T-Mobile.
I beg
That's
to
all they care about. That's
differ.
all they care about. That's all they
Look.
build
This
is
is
along interstates,
AT.
dude. They don't build anywhere else outside of major interstates. Look at their coverage
I
maps.
hey, look. Hey, EM. You know that I am the twerking king for T-Mobile. Okay, and
Yeah,
I
and
have
look at
hit
their
and I have
coverage
hit
maps, bro.
and I have hit dead spots on T-Mobile on interstate.
Yeah, but I'm saying the majority of their network is interstates. That's all that
Yeah,
they build. They are the interstate carrier, and they are the interstate carrier because they don't build anywhere else. But like even from a truck driver's perspective, yeah, a truck driver who really cares about being connected all the time and having a constant internet connection is going to do one of two things. They're either going to have cell phone service from two separate providers, or they're going to
yeah,
they're going to do like the mobile Starlink type of application. You know, I mean, I know truck drivers that have dedicated hotspots from carrier A and phone service through carrier B just in case they get caught up in whatever,
right,
or their work supplied devices are on carrier A, and so they make sure to get their personal device through carrier B so that when they're on the road, at least one of the two devices has a connection. So like
right.
again, that limits the pool of customers who are going to be taking advantage of this. You know,
Which
the
is
whole
which is
the whole
which is why well, no, which is why I said like it does limit the pool. So you being so a company being able to integrate it seamlessly into their cell phone offerings would have a leg up versus an add-on package, right?
yeah, but you
It,
don't think that T-Mobile's going to want some ROI on that? I genuinely believe that T-Mobile is going to be looking for a payday on this. Like,
I think that if it takes off, or let's say that it works, because it comes down to this, right? How well does it work? I mean, granted,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
YouTube video clips, there's Twitter/X clips of them using it to do like FaceTime and different video apps. It comes down to how well it works, right? If it works overtly super well, I can see them trying to up the monetization value, right? But if it's like a barely it works and I got to stand on one foot and put my hand out like a crow to try to do it, get it to work, then I see it being more integrated. It's going to be like, yo, this is just a band aid until we put towers in your town. It towers in that
but
forest over there in that corner.
again, I think we've talked about this before, though. I think you have the wrong idea of what this service is going to be. It is not going to be a band-aid. It is going to be a keep alive signal for that device for GPS and location purposes, right? And it's
Right.
going to be a emergencies only situation. I don't think that any carrier, T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, Apple, with the Global Star thing, it's not designed to be a replacement for a terrestrial connection. It's not designed to
But here's
function
the
the
thing:
same.
they are changing the parameters because take Apple for example, right? When they introduced the satellite phone to satellite offering last year. The only thing you could do on it was 911. Now you could do full on text messages via satellite. They're opening up the capabilities to do more. If it was just going to be like, hey, look, I'm stranded and I need help type situation, it would have just stayed at 911. Or, hey, come help me. I'm falling. I can't get up type scenario. It would have just stayed at that point. Now they're saying that not only are you going to be able to text via satellite, you're going to be able to hold full on conversations. Hey, I'm in the woods. Here, look
Yeah,
what
but
I've
I think
done.
your idea of this being a full-blown replacement for terrestrial coverage or as a band-aid until terrestrial coverage can become available is where you have the wrong idea. Like,
Uh,
yes, they might open it up for texting, full-blown texting, right? Like that's a very good
right.
possibility. But you're not going to have a family of five who moves into an area where T-Mobile has zero native coverage. That's going to be relying strictly on satellite for their streaming and their calling and their texting and their video calling. That's just not feasible.
I don't
So
necessarily see it being that feasible. I just think that it's going to be. I think it's going to get used a lot more than we think it is,
y- y-
especially for
you might
T-Mobile
be
because
you
T-Mobile
might
doesn't
be
have the
right.
largest.
You
They
might be
don't have
right,
the largest footprint.
but talk to anybody who's moved to an area where their carrier doesn't have coverage. If I move from place A to place B and my carrier doesn't have good coverage in the area that I'm moving to, I'm switching carriers. And that's what 90% of people do.
That's true.
You might so this is not an acquisition opportunity for T-Mobile. This is not an acquisition opportunity for Verizon or AT&T. This is a keep alive for those customers who are in areas where either cellular coverage is impossible or it's very difficult, right? Like
Right.
that's what it is, and that's all it's ever going to be.
But you know what?
Unless sat to phone technology rapidly expands in its capabilities over the next 24 to 36 months, I don't see that mindset ever changing, to be honest with you.
Oh no. I totally get where you're coming from. I just think that we haven't, because e- everything right now is speculation, right? But once the rubber hits the road and they go, this is our deployment. You got people testing it, like nerds like me and you. We're sitting out there purposely wrapping ourselves in aluminum foil to try to block signals so we can do just strictly satellite from phone to satellite and see does it work. Until we actually see the performance, then we can probably judge which direction it's going to go in. But I'm just saying, like, the amount of investment that you're seeing, it can't just be for 911 emergency type setup. I just don't see that. It's just the amount of push. Like, take Starlink for example. They got to they want to put up an additional 2,000 satellites for just this for America. That's a lot of satellites for just in case, like, barely do it on a regular basis. They want revenue. They want options.
See, what did Austin say? Global Star thing, when I was testing it, a 90-character message took up to 5 seconds to send from the iPhone. Yeah,
See,
so exactly. Like, these services aren't going to be, they're not going to be someone's main connectivity solution. This is going to be like in a last ditch effort. You're in an emergency, like whatever. I again, that
yeah,
just proves my point. And I don't see T-Mobile's solution or Verizon or even AT&T's solution being any better than that.
I understand that. I understand.
But again, we have to wait and see because this whole satellite thing is so new. We haven't seen a real world implementation of it until the last week or so, when people have been able to test this satellite, capabilities on the
Right.
iPhones. So
I mean, hey, look,
what
I
did
just think, I just
What did Sneed say? It's $100 million investment. T-Mobile US pays more to lawyers weekly. Their marketing budget is probably double that. That's true. That's true. That just goes to my point, Sneed, is that there's very timid investment from the two carriers that actually matter, and I would watch what Verizon and AT&T do rather than what T-Mobile does, because we don't know how much T-Mobile is investing into this Starlink venture, and
yeah, we don't
they
have
could
any
be
idea.
they could be dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into this, and we
That's
have
very
no
true.
clue.
But
And
the thing is, and I'm not saying that announcing first necessarily means that you're doing the biggest, but I mean, after T-Mobile announced, then that's when I heard AT&T, and then the last one that really decided to jump on board was Verizon, and I feel like Verizon is just going, hey, since everybody else is doing it, let's go
yeah,
ahead and just get our
which
toe
I
in the
think was
water.
I think that was a smart play, honestly. I think that
No,
there was I think that there was a conversation where, okay, let's see which company's developing a reasonable and feasible technology solution that would benefit our network and our customers, and then they said, okay, we don't really like what Starlink's doing, but we could get on board with AST, and then you know if we can get in on it with reasonable investment dollars, go for it, right? And I think that's where
you
Verizon went with it. So
one of the biggest limiting factors, right? And I don't know if a lot of people knew this, is the FCC makes it where they don't do carrier aggregation with satellites. They don't allow it. So the thing is what happens later on when they decide they want to do this? If they decide to want to do it, is now you could drive around with a hotspot, and it don't matter where you are. It'll carry aggregate with whatever.
Why would carrier aggregation matter? I wouldn't want to be pulling data from a macro and then also grabbing secondary carriers from a satellite. That sounds like a terrible connection.
Well, I think it has something to do with like handoffs, being able to see them, because the way that they were talking is basically right now, and you probably can forecast this is going to happen. You're gonna be driving along, you're gonna lose a signal, right? Then you got to wait for the phone to reacquire, and it's going to look to see what's the strongest signal available to it. If it's a satellite, then it's going to lock onto that one. But then what happens when you coming back into range of another terrestrial antenna?
Yeah,
It's not
but
going to hand off
again,
seamlessly.
you're confusing two different terms, Cam. Carrier aggregation and handoffs are two completely separate things. And
Okay.
to Sneed's point, he just commented because it violates terrestrial cellular rules. The interference is fierce, and it is. I read the white paper that Sneed posted on Twitter. I read through the
Yeah.
whole white paper. There's a 40% reduction in efficiency going sat to phone using the PCS spectrum. Not to mention the risk for interference. It is a sizable decrease in efficiency and performance. And you're not going to want to have a UE handing off between terrestrial and satellite frequently. It would cook your battery. It would cook your performance. I would highly recommend you go read that white paper that Sneed posted on Twitter, because it really shines some light.
I read what he posted. I don't know where the white paper is though. That's the only question. I've been trying to look it up.
You literally linked it in the tweet, brother.
Oh, you did? I read
Yeah,
the tweet.
dude, he literally linked it in the tweet.
I read the tweet, but I didn't see the link. I didn't see the link. I honestly, I didn't see the link. I got to go back and look. But
PCS for this project is a terrible choice. I agree. I've been saying that from the beginning. Thank you. I have been saying that from the beginning, that PCS was a poor choice of frequency. It's too close to other operating bands, and it's going to require too much mitigation and too much monitoring to avoid interference with the terrestrial network. And that includes other operators within the PCS spectrum. It's not just interfering with their own network, it's also interfering with Verizon and AT&T's PCS spectrum. PCS was a very poor choice, and the only reason T-Mobile did it, and I will die on this hill, is because they had a 5x5 swath nationwide that they got from Sprint that they didn't know what to do with.
But I foresee that they probably wasn't going to do anything with it if they didn't have this option at all. It would have just been a pain in the butt to deploy.
Well, it doesn't even matter. I mean, you should start looking into intermodulation and harmonics within that frequency band. It's a very touchy thing, especially with how close it is to AWS. There's a lot of potential for interference within that 1.7 to 2 gigahertz band. I mean, you have terrestrial carriers that literally interfere with themselves sometimes. It's very, very touchy. And then you're talking about broadcasting this crap from space. I don't think so. I'm not for it.
So look, I'm not saying that FCC is incompetent, but they are greenlighting this, and they're talking about trying to deploy it in the next couple months. So if there's a sizable interference, then I wouldn't have necessarily saw the FCC jump on board.
I want you to look at this. So this is T-Mobile's PCS G block. This is what they're planning on broadcasting from space. You go to the C block of PCS, which is directly adjacent to that. Look how many other carriers have spectrum in that C block of PCS.
Yes.
You got Verizon, you got AT&T, you got US Cellular, you got Viaero, you got Cellcom, you got all these other companies, ComNet, Southern Link probably somewhere down here. So yeah, there it is. There is so much grounds for potential interference with terrestrial carriers, which means in order to avoid that, because they don't want to get on the shit list with all of these terrestrial carriers, they're going to have to reduce the power, which reduces the efficiency of that already really skinny channel of PCS. Like
Right.
there's a lot of things fighting against T-Mobile's ability to produce a good service, and the only way around that is going to be to, I don't know, buy up all of the adjacent frequencies, which they can't do. They can't afford that.
No, they wouldn't. That's not a viable option in the first place.
Yeah. And again, but this is going to be a problem that Verizon and AT&T are going to have if they choose to utilize 850 for their sat to phone communications. 850 is a very busy frequency band, just like PCS is. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. We know whether it's public safety, private communications, private radio. There's a lot of stuff happening in that 800 megahertz band that will, potentially cause problems. And see, yeah, again, this is another point that's made in that white paper. Once African nations start broadcasting N25, the PCS over satellite won't even work. Yeah. So again, it's all about they got to
I
get
understand that.
and that's where AST is going to have a leg up, is they have a multitude of partners like globally that are all signed on to work with them, and I would imagine that they're all utilizing a similar frequency set. So
That's
there's
true.
a lot of questions.
I mean,
A lot of
like
questions.
even right now, like what is it? I was looking at an article and we're talking about like Amazon is trying to hurry up and get into the constellation game also, because satellite from space and satellite internet from space is becoming a very big profitable deal right now. What was it? Besides the fact that you had the war in Ukraine, other countries, instead of just building a whole network, like I was talking to a gentleman in my car about it. He was like, he's from like a foreign country, and he's like, he has Starlink, and he said, "Yo, having Starlink and communicating over that versus, let's say, some weird, country that's trying to build their own internet. You don't know how many people are interfering with that because, here in America we have like stricter regulations on, interfering or tampering with, right? But in other countries, you put up a satellite, a cell signal. We don't know who's sitting at the base of that cell signal, scraping data. All you know is like, hey, my information could be everywhere at that point, and that's the way the guy had relayed it to me. So, I mean, satellite technology is coming along a whole lot faster, which is why I'm a little bit more bullish than most about it, right? I mean, that's just kind of where I stand at. I mean, I'm gonna go back and read that white paper also. I want to find out what the limitations, possible limitations of it is going to end up being. I just don't. I mean, I just don't know why the FCC would even, if it's going to happen, then it would start happening now, because they're still broadcasting. I think it's a server. It's a firmware update now at this point. I don't know.
Again, it's just it's something to watch out for.
That's true. That's true. Hey, look.
And
Not to beat the dead horse into the ground, but also at WWDC, it was OpenAI's time to shine.
oh, bro, I don't give a shit about any of this AI crap.
What? Oh, come on, man! Look, hey, whenever I do a Google search, AI is the thing. AI is the thing, man. It's the bee's knees.
I don't know. I don't really care. I don't have enough things that'll. This will get worse with time. It will not get better. It will age like milk. You're damn right. It will, Sneed. You're damn right.
Hold on, let me see where you read it. It will get worse. Okay, I see it.
On top of that, you already have astronomers that are raising concerns over the density of the
Yeah,
constellations.
they are.
There's a lot of question marks when it comes to the okay, how much are we really going to want Starlink to deploy within these within these different areas? And yeah, Austin said it best. Artificial intelligence is boring me. It's just like Android. Yeah, it
Come on, yo. Hey,
find
look.
me a use case other than a potentially better Siri. Like,
Well, making Siri a whole lot more useful is a big deal.
cool, if they can make Siri more useful, I'm all ears. But I don't use even then. I don't use Google Assistant in a way that you know I couldn't use Siri. I'm gonna give you a real quick rundown of what I use Siri and Google Assistant for.
Uh huh.
Hey, G word, call so and so. Hey, Siri, call so and so. Send a
Okay.
message to so and so. Oh, shut the fuck up, Siri.
Oh no,
Hey, Siri,
you triggered
shut
it.
up.
You triggered yours.
Uh,
You probably triggered a whole bunch of other people when you
yeah,
said
my
it.
bad. My bad, anybody. My bad. I
But you know
use
what? The biggest thing here for me, right, is Google's um assistant has been more. I mean, granted, I still only use it for rudimentary little things like set timers, tell me what the weather is maybe something I need a definition on. 'Cause I don't know the exact definition. Me and my wife will be like, "Who's the smartest?" So who got closer towards it,
yeah,
something
but
like
like
that.
that's
But
basic stuff that they can already do, right? Like uh, until the voice assistants get competent enough, and this is one thing that I am excited for when it comes to Apple, where they were talking about being able to follow
you say, "Oh no, you talking
conversations.
about us?" You triggered Austin's S word.
Oh, I'm sorry, Austin. I didn't mean to.
Ah,
Um, if I can get them to, you know, follow conversation, like for example, they talked about in the keynote, like, okay, what are the hours for X restaurant? Can you make a reservation for there at whatever, whatever? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, if it can follow along in my conversation without me having to give it all of the contextual information for my overall goal within the conversation, that's probably the most I would ever see me being able to take advantage of those voice assistants, which is great, right? If it can follow along in my conversation and pick up on those hints along the way to get me to my final destination and my final request, that's fine. But I don't see myself taking advantage of any of these other crazy AI features. It
you
feels
know
very
they
reminiscent of like the .com bubble type of era.
it is very
Uh,
close to that. It's very close to that. But here's the problem, right? Finding a use case for it versus discover like just naturally let it work. I think that one of like when Siri was introduced, the promise behind it was your phone being smarter at picking up what you want to do, right? But then it just became a nuisance because you trigger it and then it just does nothing for you. Like, let's say you do a search and you want to like, hey, what's AT&T's AWS Spectrum Holdings? And it goes, this is what I found on the web. And it'll be something totally different. You'd be like, AWS, it just picked up a word and said, here, Amazon. That's not what I wanted. It doesn't it doesn't do a correlation between AT&T and AWS. And what do I mean by that, right? And the smarter that these computers get and these algorithms get, you can start asking it deeper questions.
yeah, and that's fine. Like, I mean, that's probably the one benefit to like a Chat GPT from my limited uh usage of Chat GPT is you can ask it more specific questions. I think for a long time, these voice assistants or chatbots would just kind of lead you to the answer or lead you to somewhere where you could find the answer, but now they can just find you the
Yeah.
answer. You know what I mean? I think that's probably as far as I'm willing to allow, I don't know, the whole deeper integration with my personal, life and my personal, attributes. And Apple talked about it, about how it's gonna like be extremely tailored towards you as a user. Like, to me, that just kind of creeps me out a little bit. you know
You know
I
what?
think,
Because the technology is so new, we don't. I pretend. I don't pretend that it's going to be as evasive. So me and No Radio were talking, I think last week, and we're talking about how like AI is like the way that AI is going to end up being used is going to be more nefarious than it is going to be helpful for right now. Like you want to be able to have something that's going to come to your aid, right? You forgot something, you wanted to remind you that hey, you had an appointment today. It needs to organically do it on its own. But the way that it's set up right now, AI is just going around grabbing it because like the check this out. You know that there's no money exchange between Apple and OpenAI. OpenAI just wants access to the people. The number of iOS devices that are out there that runs. Austin, I'm not trying to trigger your Apple device. So the S word um, is a lot, and, and to be able to have access to that is big. So
well, and see,
it's
that's
like,
why I don't like, dude, I don't like that. I don't like them getting access to hundreds of millions of users, usage data and patterns and all this other. It's too much. It's too much.
but arguably, and this is me arguing for on the behalf of Apple, sir. This is strange. The reason why the S word didn't work very well was because it was closed. It was all everything on device. So only thing it had to grow from was how many times did you ask, you know, the assistant to marry you? You see, will you marry me? Oh, I'm married to the game. It wasn't growing. Where Google, assistant was, hey, we're going to learn from language. We're taking all the languages that query our stuff and build a better language model. You could tell that from the fact that you could squeeze the whole language model onto the phone now. You could literally I literally just talk into my phone now. I don't. It's quicker for me to talk on through into my phone than it is typing, and I've never was good at typing.
Yeah, I don't know. I will. To Austin's point, he says that you'll be able to opt out of these features, and you best believe I will be opting out of all of these features because something about it makes me very uneasy. I don't like the idea of these services and tools. And brother, I was not talking to you. I just don't. Yeah, dude, I didn't even say the word. That's crazy. I don't like how integrated these are becoming into people's lives. I mean, people are already stuck on their smartphones all the time,
That's true.
and I
I
guess
think
the, there's
that
there's a weird dystopian paradise where people end up not using their phones as much because the chatbots get, you know, they start doing so much for people that people use their phones less. But I don't see that being the case. What if Sneed said, what if you can't opt out of them harvesting all of your data?
that's
I
true.
mean, that's a good
Hey, look,
point.
you look. You had the what was it? You had the movie industry and all the people that worked in it protesting because AI, because the way that they were just feeding data into AI, and they were like, "Yo, was it Scarlett Johansson? It was is fighting against OpenAI because they came to her and wanted to use her voice. She said no, and her voice showed up in the keynote speech.
And see, that's what I have a problem with, is that OpenAI has chosen this uh, take first, ask for permission later type of mentality to building their services and their products, that if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. And
That's true.
I don't like that. And I think as consumers, we all need to be a little bit more cognizant of that fact, is that's how these companies are choosing to operate, is that they will take first and ask for permission later. And
I, I, I agree with you. Here's the thing. I feel that the reason why they do this in such a way is because the benefits outweigh the consequences. It is a whole lot more beneficial, and you can grow your company faster just to go ahead and piss somebody off and then settle with them out of court than it is to wait for ask for permission, because a lot of people don't want to give it. I mean, you're one of them. I mean, I'm kind of on the fence. I understand that if you can make these computer algorithms a lot more intuitive, then it can become a lot more helpful. But at the same time, what happens when, you know, let's say you become popular, and now your face and your voice becomes popular, and therefore people want to have it on their device, and then you go, well, I've given talk after talk after talk, and then now they just scrape it off the web and go, hey, it was in public, it was in public domain, we can use
I
it.
mean, I think every content creator that has hours and hours of footage on YouTube should be worried about that.
Yeah,
I genuinely think
that's
they should
true.
be worried about that.
Because it's going to be easier to just to scrape, and understand the lowest common denominator is the one that can't fight back. So a Scarlett Johansson can easily just like, hey, look, I'm gonna sue you, bam, I want my money. But somebody like myself, they decided, oh well, you know what, you have a very appealing voice. Let's use you. And I go, excuse me, that's my voice. Oh, prove it. I talk the same way all the time, and it will make it harder for me to challenge a bigger entity like an open AI than it would be for like a famous person.
Yeah, but it goes deeper than that too. You have nefarious actors that can spin up their own chat bot or their own tool that could do this to deep fake your voice or deep fake your face or whatever. I
Yeah,
mean, I genuinely believe in reducing your digital footprint as much as possible. Like,
I
especially as these tools get more and more available to more people.
I'm right there with you. You know, because was it last week we were talking about like there's legislation being passed, seek to be passed in Congress about you know, your digital identity, right? And what companies need to be able to do or can LGBT can be flirting with the fact that you could just start scraping people's identity for free. All you got to do is watch enough somebody's videos and get somebody with a nice voice that nobody's discovered yet, and outshine them before they have a chance to shine themselves.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
there's so many nefarious things that you can do that it can just open up so many issues.
yeah, I mean,
But
I think of people like Sneed. I mean, Sneed's got probably hours, if not weeks, worth of content where he's just talking, and someone could easily clip his voice and make fake videos.
that's true.
Tyrone, same thing. You, same thing. Like
It,
these tools are going to cause more harm than good, and I think it's in everyone's best interest to push for whether it's legislation or some sort of guidance to prevent those things from happening. You know,
often also,
yeah,
yeah,
Austin, same thing. Yeah. Anybody where you have hours of footage that they can dump into a chat bot, and then all of a sudden, you know, see, he said that they already have, a friend of mine has already made my voice singing music. Like, bro, that should be fucking terrifying.
it
That
is.
that should be.
Hey, look. The more processing power, the more sophisticated these algorithms start getting, the more dangerous it becomes, because you can end up mimicking somebody who did not say or do any of those things that he said. Like, case in point, my wife. I said, look out for all men everywhere, because my wife has me twerking in some room that I've never been in. And I'm sitting here like, what's gonna happen? Like now I'm gonna be accused of cheating, and I wasn't even in the place that was reported, just to see if I was cheating. And we all know how that's gonna go. Why were you at that person's house? I don't even know where that is. But you're dancing. Look what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, this, as much as I gave shit to Ricky for it because he was definitely doing it for not this reason, but he was at one point using like a voice modulator when he was
Yeah,
doing live streams and shit. There's some credence to it now. I mean, if you modify your voice from the source, then any content that's, scraped from your YouTube channel or whatever is not going to be viable because it's not true from the source to begin with. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I,
I see
I,
a lot of harm coming from these tools, and the more that they get integrated into our everyday lives, we start bridging. There's less of a gap between fake things and reality. And that's the scary part. And I think
no, no,
only worse things are going to keep coming from this. If that,
no, I totally understand, but I think that what we're going to end up seeing is a how to hide ourselves from these computers now. So um, like you just said, Ricky modulating his voice at the source, right? So now I don't want my voice out there. I don't want nobody to know who I am. I don't want nobody to know what I sound like. Then on top of that, now your face. So we got cameras all over the place. These algorithms are going to be able to do more with less processing power. You know, now what you're going to have to do is wear some type of collar around your neck that blurs your face to cameras. What is it? Infrared light blurs camera sight, right? So you're gonna end up having beads around your neck that shine infrared on your face to distort your face.
I yeah, and I don't know. That's the scary part. I mean, people thought CCTV was invasive when CCTV started becoming a thing back in like the early 2000s, late 90s.
Yeah,
And then you're gonna
but
have
then
shit like this. I mean, this is that we're
but
gonna
then what
start.
ended up but then what happened with CCTV is they backed it up with like, hey, look, facial recognition. But then they found out that facial recognition was overly biased by whoever created it. So it thought that everybody who was black was the same person, or Asian was the same person, but it could tell differences in Caucasian, which means that they were already trying to figure out a way so you could put somebody's face in and track them down as fast as possible. So we've been dabbling with it. Now it's full on front. It's training the models as quickly as possible. That's the reason why Apple needed to get into the whole Apple Intelligence, and they chose Chat GBT to do it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I don't know.
A-
I
AI
don't like these
is the
large language
new
models, bro. I'm a big opposer to them. Not a big fan.
now playing devil's advocate on that other side. Now, what about people who, like, let's say they come here from different countries, they're visiting, but they don't speak English. So now they you could pull your phone out and have a full blown conversation through your phone to somebody. You got a universal translator. Hey, I'm in America. They speak English. I speak Portuguese, but I don't understand English that well. So to get somebody to understand me, what do? It took a lot of understanding people's voice patterns and what they meant by certain words to finally be able to make it more a whole lot easier to use these translation apps. Those are some good use cases, but I mean, I understand your fears. I'm just saying that what about the benefits? You don't see no benefit at all?
I think that I don't. I think you're misinterpreting what I'm saying. It's not that I don't see the benefits. I see the detractors being significantly outweighing the benefits as a whole.
So there's more bad than good.
Correct.
I understand.
Correct.
I,
That
I
would,
understand that.
but we'll see. We'll see. I think we're heading to a very dystopian place when it comes to our technology. I think everyone should. I think the biggest thing that I can say is that people just need to be more educated on the products that they have, the data that they're giving up, the data that they're allowing these companies to scrape when they use their services, and hopefully make smarter decisions.
Yeah, the smarter decision one is going to be kind of hard because everybody's on this fast track of trying to integrate artificial intelligence into their product, and I don't think that they think about the end, like the possible craziness at the end. So, my last story I'm gonna have for you is this one, right? So, Microsoft, what was it last week? Also, was it last week or the week before last? Introduced the AI of all AIs, their copilot, into the system, but now they're kind of backpedaling on the whole AI side.
I'll let
So
you run this story. I'm gonna go grab something to drink real quick. I'll be right back.
not a problem. So Microsoft postpones the launch of its controversial recall AI feature. Now, any of us who has personal computers know the dreaded somebody might hack into your system problem. Now, the new Qualcomm chips have NPUs on them, so neural processing units, and it pretty much just crunches crazy amount of numbers in the background. And the recall feature is them crunching a lot of numbers real quickly. And one of the things that the recall feature does is it takes screenshots of everything that you keep doing and holds on to them. So that is a hacker's wet dream. This thing is already doing everything for you, and all you got to do is access the repository on somebody's laptop, desktop, or whatever device that is running recall AI features on. You don't even have to do a whole lot of hard work. You just got to get access to the screenshots that this thing is doing, because the whole purpose of recall, and just in case you didn't quite know, is that it takes a bunch of snapshots of what you're doing on your desktop, right? And it archives them. So let's say that you wanted to go back and you say, "What was that conversation I was having with Joe about AI?" And it will pull up all the things that you did pertaining to AI through those screenshots. Well, what about all the rest of the data that you had that is sitting there? You check your bank account, you check your mortgage, you checked other things at the same time. It wasn't just talking about one particular subject. You did conducted business off of your laptop. And then somebody hacks into your laptop, gets access somehow, some way, some vulnerability that popped up that nobody foresaw. Now that repository of information is just sitting there. Does it dissolve over time? Does it break down? Is there an expiration date to this? How long is your computer going to hold on to these screenshots that's being taken? And hold on, what did Austin say? Austin says, yeah, the hacker still has to get access to the computer, SSH protocols, and other means necessary. Okay, we all know also that hacking is not just somebody brute forcing into your laptop. It's social engineering too. So a lot of people don't have strong passwords. Yes, fingerprints is one of them, and then the pin code is another. There are ways that you can slow them down, but if somebody can socially re-engineer your life and get into your laptop, that's a lot. You could really, really destroy somebody's livelihood. So let's see. Austin says the computer has up to a minimum of 50 gigs of the recall feature to work as intended. But the thing is screenshots are not a lot of data. I don't know how many screenshots it would take for you to be able to fill up 50 gigs. And more than likely, I'll probably dissolve the last photo it took of.
I'm back.
But like I said, oh, what's up? But I don't know. Do you know about the recall feature that they added to Copilot? That they're kind of walking it back now to Windows Insider program.
I know of it.
But this is just
I'm
another
very
AI
glad.
feature.
I'm very glad that they walked it back. It's very invasive.
That's true. I feel like, a lot of these things that companies come up with, they don't think about the full ramifications, like it actually truly working in the wild, right? Like I think that somebody was sitting there like, yo, I got this great idea. Have you ever was like, yo, I sent such and such an email, but you can't realize which email you send it from? Because we all have different email addresses. Like my wife still has a Yahoo account, which I poke fun at her all the time about. But the thing is she very rarely uses it. So what happens when you get something that's sent to you through that account and you don't really pay attention to it? Now you're going, well, dad, somebody sent me something. Where is it at? It would be great to be able to recall that, but now all that data is just sitting there for somebody to eventually get a hold of.
Yeah, I think that was a very misguided feature. It's like keylogging. It's like literally keylogging, but Microsoft. Like I don't
Yes.
understand why anybody would want this.
I think that the idea is genuine. Like the premise behind it was like, oh, look, it'll be easier for you to find the things that you lost or recall, quote unquote, recall what you forgot. But we live in a time where everything is treasure. Anything that you look up is treasure. And that's kind of it makes that recall feature look worse.
And that,
That's kind of what I think. It makes it look worse than what it is. It might be a great idea in the short term, but in the long term, it's a devil's nightmare.
and that's my whole point is that like it is. We're hitting a point where like it's okay. How much are we willing to give up? How much of our personal information are we willing to give up to allow these features to work?
True.
And I think that with features like this, you have companies like Microsoft seeing how much they can get away with.
Yes and no. I think that a lot of ideas come through the pipeline. It's just they don't have enough people in place until they start hearing the feedback, right? I don't think there's anybody in Microsoft that goes, yo, great idea, but what about this? Do you have an answer for solving this problem? And they don't have somebody who sits there and goes, I think about cybersecurity all day long. This is a terrible idea, sir. You don't have anything that bounces off somebody perceived wheelhouse and make it past that gate, right? It goes through the whole idea, it gets implemented, it gets added into Copilot, and then when you start hearing people cry about it, you go, "Ooh, we didn't vet that good enough. Let's put it on the Windows Insider program and see how it works." It's kind of like one of those problems. Like that's kind of how I look at it. But, and this is something I want to ask you also, at what point is data transactional?
When I start getting paid for it,
But what about features that you get for free? Because like you said, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Do you use Google Maps?
all I'm saying is that there are tens of thousands of dollars that Google and Microsoft and Apple are probably making off of our individual user data.
Yeah.
And until I start either getting those,
I want my paycheck.
I either want my paycheck or I want my shit for free. I want my Apple iCloud for free. I want my Google Cloud for free. You know
True.
what? And that's, to me, that's kind of where I sit with it. You know what I mean? It's like, you know,
No, I totally understand that. I just say that here's a feature that's getting ready to that was being pushed to people, and I think that they genuinely thought they were trying to help people, but it was a cybersecurity nightmare. And because it was a
I personally,
cybersecurity nightmare,
yeah, and I think you assume the absolute best for
I do
these
believe.
companies. You think that they're acting out of the kindness of their heart, but they're not.
Well, well, here's the thing. I look at it the person. I look at it at a person level, not the company level.
But
I
you have
think
to look
that
at it from a company level, because they're not making decisions on a personal level. They're making decisions based off of how far ahead they can get from the competition. How fast can they get a product to market? How fast can they start selling or making money off of these services? And as we discussed before, these AI companies cannot, evolve their product offering unless they have more user data to train off of.
true.
And that's all that this was. This was a grab for Microsoft to try and just scrape as much user data as possible from every Windows
Mm.
user. And then
Well,
thankfully, we had people in the cybersecurity industry and people who are privacy advocates that said, "Hold on, wait a minute, let's relax, let's let's back this one up just a little bit." You know what I mean?
well, here's the thing. Like take the development of the atom bomb, right? Like when you go back and look at history, the scientists, they thought they were doing something that was groundbreaking and everything, but you had the federal government involved. And of course, once they realized the power they were dealing with, the scientist goes, "We have just destroyed the world." You know what I mean? You are you didn't have destruction in mind when you split the atom, right? When they was like, "Oh, look, we just split the atom," and there's somebody standing over your shoulder going, "So what is the military version of this?" And you go, "Crap." You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
The person who came up with the idea was not thinking of it as a nefarious idea, which is why I approach it from the person level, not from the company level. The company level is going to absolutely try to figure out a way to monetize it, try to gain money off of it, try to figure out a way to scrape data from people about it. Right? That's their whole purpose. It's like, yo, we are doing this, and we want all the data, all of it, all of it. But like, was it Oppenheimer? That's the documentary for the first atom bomb, right? When he's quoted for saying like, "Look what I've done." That's not what he intended for it to be used for.
Yeah, but still,
So
you're talking about, again, if we want to go, historical context. uh, These companies are not in the business of making our lives better. They're in the business of making money.
make it money. I totally understand that.
And that's
I understand
all
that.
that that is all that they will ever be in the business of. Like, it's like the classic example is, sorry, I'm eating food right now.
Oh no, I'm hungry too, so that's why I'm almost done.
um Google's company motto, or their, whatever you want to call it, their slogan was don't be evil.
That's true, and that
It's
changed.
not don't be evil
It ain't
anymore.
that no more because like I say, it was like, yo, we got to get paid.
Like, that's the thing that people need to start understanding about these big tech companies, is as their value increases and their market cap increases and their share value increases, they are less and less about you as the consumer, and more about their bottom line, and or increasing their top line, however you want to look at it. And they will only continue to do things that benefit their bottom line, even if it comes at the cost of your privacy or your consumer rights or your, even civil rights, if you want to go that far. They
Right.
will grasp at straws to do anything it means to increase their bottom lines, which is what Microsoft was trying to do here.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I totally agree with you. It's about the bottom line because Microsoft has been migrating away from they want to go subscription model instead of exactly what they did end up doing with like Office. Office used to be, you bought a license whenever they came out with a new Office, right? Now it's a subscription model. They want to do the same thing with the OS, but now you can they know that you're not going to be able to charge a lot for a subscription model for the OS. So how do you recoup the cost of development? You need data.
Yeah, I'm
If you
telling
got
you
all that data, if you got all that data on people's computers that are paying you a subscription, guess what? You can try to figure out a way to monetize it. That's exactly what they were trying to think it after it started realizing like, ooh, this is a nightmare.
I'm telling you, bro, the minute that Microsoft turns Windows into a subscription based, offering rather than just buying a license key to an operating system is the minute I switch to Linux.
Oh,
I'm done playing that game. I'm
hey, here you go, here you
I'm
go.
sick of paying for these subscriptions as it is. Like you will
Every
not you won't catch me doing it anymore. To be honest.
all these companies try to figure out to do is try to live inside of your wallet. That's all they do. I mean, understand that's the reason why we haven't really been seeing a lot of updates to Windows. Is Apple gets away with it because the operating system is tied to the hardware. Okay, so that technically means that the life of the hardware setup is finite, which is why they in support for for their software after a certain point. Some like I guess for the M series it might last a little bit longer, but after about 3 or 4 generations, they start updating it less and less, right? Where Windows and Microsoft has to update the software for billions of computers, and they don't get anything for it except for residuals from new license holders. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying this is not me advocating for Microsoft to go subscription. It's just showing what it actually is. Your competitors are doing more with less, and you don't gain anything from having to support older hardware. So they're trying to figure out ways to make money. They did it with
Well,
Microsoft 360. They did it with Office 360 because they broke it away from they broke it out of the traditional model. But go ahead.
how about they just start offering how about they start offering good features and good reasons to to buy newer versions of the software. Is that just a crazy concept or something?
If
Like
if they did that, then you know what will end up happening. Like I feel you on this one, but I can tell you what will end up happening. Right, you get half baked products. They would throw a recall and things like it at you so they can meet a quota to try to get you to sign up for the next version and buy another license, but it will be half baked. And then let's say it doesn't gain any traction, they'll drop support, but yeah, you paid for support. You see what I'm saying? I bought this because of that feature. You're not featuring it no more, so now I want my money back. So there's different problems that you end up running into. If you pack it full of features and those features don't hit, do you carry those features over into the next OS update?
see, here's where I'm going to disagree with you, and Austin brings up a fantastic point. The iPhone
Okay.
XR is on its 7th year of software updates.
Dang.
I remember that phone very well because it was the first iPhone launch that I was in sales for. I remember when that phone came out. It's on its 7th year of congruent software updates. If Apple can do it, Microsoft can do it. I don't care what you say.
True, but the numbers also like we would have to try to dig it through and try to figure out how many XRs they sold, right? But
A
it was
lot,
it's
a
probably
lot.
but it's probably easier for them to support that than it is like turning off features. turning off features versus trying to make them work on a low budget phone is totally different. I mean, there's features on the XR that the Max does without trying. That's what I'm saying. Is like, the OS can still run and they can support. But that person, let's say this side they want to use the Chat GPT, they can't.
Okay, that's fine.
Which I'm just throwing it out there because that's a new feature that's being proposed. The XR phone can't run the newer stuff.
Yeah, but still, Apple continues to offer security patches and security updates for those phones, even though they're not getting the full blown support that the newer phones are getting. What Microsoft will probably end up doing is it will probably discontinue software upgrade or security patches and security upgrades.
Yeah.
And that's where I have a problem with it, right? Is like you're going to have devices that are going to be unsecure or whatever because Microsoft doesn't feel like supporting them anymore or whatever their reason is. And then you're going to have people forced into an OS upgrade that will eventually lead to a subscription-based, model, which is just frustrating to me. But
oh no, I'm right there with you, man. I'm curious to see which direction they're going to go in. I feel like the subscription model is where they're heading to because they want to get paid for their development work. That's kind of just the direction they're going in. No radio, aka
what are the specs of that? The iPhone XR has the A12 Bionic.
Right.
That's what are we on now? The A17 or
A16, 16 or 17.
So we're four or five generations behind. That that phone came out in 2018. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah. It's one of those problems like the feature, like I look at the XR as being kind of like the feature phone set for Apple, right? It runs the familiar, but it doesn't do anything else outside of that, which makes it easier for you to support because you don't have to worry about a lot of extra stuff on it. You don't have to worry about, upgrading the camera and putting the upgrades for all the software enhancements and making Siri, the S word, work better. It is what it is, right? That's kind of,
it's wild that phone is still supported.
It is, but here's the thing: you also had look at the phones. But here's the thing: look at the phones that came out at the same time. So the XR at 2017 was what the iPhone.
Well, it would have been 2018, so that would have been the iPhone 10s.
10s. Okay.
Yep.
So the 10s is still supported, but I read an article.
That would have been the Galaxy S10.
Yeah.
Would have been the equivalent.
And they have stopped support. Samsung stopped support for the S10 altogether.
And then that would have been the same year as the Pixel 3.
Yes,
I think.
And they stopped support on that one also. So the Pixel 4 stopped support a year and a half ago.
Yeah, so I mean that just goes to show you that like these companies are really, Apple's serious about it, and if Apple can do it, I don't see why we shouldn't be holding these other companies to the same standard.
Which means that then you would have to tie the operating system into the hardware. So that means the same thing they do with Chrome OS, and support for Chrome is like 7 years. So after once the hardware gets to a 7-year age, it can't receive any more updates. So that means that instead of being a subscription model, it's tied to the hardware you pay for.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I forget that Apple supports these phones for as long as they have because, quite honestly, it makes a lot of sense why people don't upgrade their phones nearly as often.
Oh look, if it was up to some of these people, they would never upgrade their phones, and we know it.
No, I mean, my mom was on an iPhone 11 up until a few months ago when I finally got her an iPhone 15 Plus.
Uh-huh.
And she had no problems with it other than the camera was kind of starting to show its, age, and the battery life.
Right.
Her battery was at like 77% capacity or some crazy shit like that. But
Oh,
like,
good job.
if it wasn't for those two things, she would have kept that phone 100%.
Oh, look, I saw somebody 2 years ago still trying to make phone calls off of the iPhone 4.
I believe it.
They handed me
Hello.
they were from another country. They handed me their phone, and I was like, "Yo, this is the iPhone 4. Maybe it could have been the
Am I
4S."
audible? Anybody
Yes, sir.
You are
I can hear
audible.
you.
Yes,
Bro,
sir.
do you know I had to start this meet 10 times for y'all to hear me?
Wow, I know you came in and out a couple times.
It's meet is officially broken on my iPhone. It's broken. But either way,
I told you it was iPhone only, sir.
well, I
Told
already
you.
knew that. But that's why I told you to do what you did, and we found out what happened when we switched to a different app.
Right.
No, but the whole Apple still being supported goes back to the whole point of like the benchmarks on iPhones are almost useless because the phones already can't even use the processing power available. So of course the phones are supported longer because the chip is like 60% useless when it launches because it's so powerful that the phone can't possibly load it.
Oh yeah,
So
and
of course,
that's an Apple problem across the board though. Like, I don't know if you watch any of the bigger tech reviewers that talk about like the new MacBooks and stuff.
Yeah.
But they recommend just getting an older MacBook because
Exactly.
there's no point in getting a new one.
M1. They get the M1, get the M2. It's like it's not even worth trying to play the M3 game right now.
But yeah, that's why having an M chip and an iPad is a hilarious joke. You have enough processing power to run like 8K video editing as far as the CPU side goes on a device that you're never going to be able to edit 8K video on.
No way, they're gonna
Oh.
put the M4 chip on the Apple TV.
Like the graphics side may not be there, but the CPU side is like 5 generations ahead of the use case, which defeats the purpose of bragging that you have an M1 chip.
What the hell processors in the freaking Apple TV anyways?
Oh, like a
Oh, it's
A14.
A15 Bionic? Are you serious?
It's overkill.
That's way overkill.
But no one cares. Like as long as the price is good. But this goes back to the conversation me and Keon had the other day. Are Apple TVs the sign that iPhones are overpriced?
Yeah.
Think about it. You're getting the
think
same
so.
processor minus the screen, but look at the price difference between the two. It's way off.
Yeah.
Wait, how
Yeah.
much RAM do they put on the Apple TV?
You can get up to I think it was 8 gigs, but RAM ain't that expensive.
No, RAM is cheap, and Apple charges up the wazoo for RAM.
So like the fact that they can make the Apple TVs at the price they do tells you that the phones are overpriced.
That's true.
It tells you everything you need to know. That even Apple doesn't value those chips. They just throw whatever chips in because obviously we know that like a production in bulk and just reusing the same thing as much as possible is smart for business across any industry really. But it also proves that those chips are not worth what you're paying for them because they can produce them so cheaply and so massively that they put it in a $140 item, but also a $900 item. And we know screens ain't worth $800.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
The Apple TV 4K 3rd gen, which is the one that the most recent version has 4 gigs of RAM.
Wow.
That's good.
How much is it?
It's 130.
130.
It's $130.
It's down to $130 now.
So how much is an iPhone SE?
It used to be 179.
An iPhone SE is like $350.
There you go.
No, iPhone SE is $429.
See the problem here? We know the screen ain't worth $300.
No, that screen at this point, since they've been manufacturing that screen since when did the iPhone 6 come out? 2015, 2014?
I know what it is. It's that money they got to pay to Qualcomm. That's what that is. That's the reason why.
But see, there's
even
two sides to
then,
that, right? Your big high price item sometimes subsidizes the cheaper item.
true.
That's true.
I still
But
can't believe that they charge an extra $20 for the one with an Ethernet jack.
of course they do.
Oh
Me and
wow.
Radio were speculating that they'll probably get rid of the Wi-Fi only one and just make a stick out of it and charge price it at $100.
I mean, I believe they may make a cheaper Apple TV and then raise the price of the existing platform. That way they can justify it. So they make like a cheap stick that's like $100, and then they re-raise the price of the existing one because they can't keep the existing one at 130 something and expect you to pay $100 for a stick.
No, Radio, do you remember when they had the old Apple TV? It was a smaller black box and they charged $69.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that was back when
I remember that old
they were
black one.
that was because that was that one that had the
it was limited apps.
Yeah, it had the A8 chip in it. It was the really old one.
Yeah,
the one that
chip.
Yeah, it came out in 2015, and then when they came out with the new one that had the
No. This was 2012 or 11. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
that's
that
the
one
that 3.5 senior citizens bought. That's the
all
one
all 3.5 no Radio, huh? All three.
3.5 senior citizens, and I must have got every trouble call.
No, wow. But no, Radio, those didn't do nothing. Those only had Netflix.
I know, believe me, I know. That's why I said 3.5 citizens bought.
Hey, no Radio. So to catch, I want to find out from you and Brandon, if Windows goes subscription, what would y'all do?
What do you mean subscription?
Like become a subscription based OS.
Suicide.
They would kill them. So
it
would literally be worse than Windows.
That's just going to push more people to Mac OS.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah.
But they're Apple, not Apple, but Microsoft is running into this problem, which is like, what I was talking about earlier. I don't know if y'all were listening to it, but like their whole recall feature is about data collecting.
Yeah,
they're trying to figure out how to monetize the
first of all,
software.
Do you think Microsoft is in trouble financially?
Not necessarily, no.
So why do they need to now all of a sudden monetize extra? Is it they need to, or is it greed? Which one is it?
See, this is what I was saying. This is what I was saying.
They're literally the de facto operating system for the for the planet already.
Right.
So, like, what more monetization do they need? Is my question. Because need is a strong word to use.
Look, only thing I'm saying is that we all know that numbers are the problem, right? So, like, Microsoft supports all these computers, but yet, like, they had that Windows XP problem. Nobody wanted to upgrade. Nobody wanted to upgrade their stuff, or even move from XP over to Windows 7.
There's a flaw with your notion, though.
Okay.
99% of them people upgraded for free anyway. So what was the monetization need?
They were still doing updates.
I didn't pay to go from XP to crappy Vista. I didn't pay to go from Vista to the Windows 7. I didn't pay to go to 10. I've never paid, and I wasn't bootlegging. So what does this need to pay come from? Well, it wasn't a money wall stopping you from upgrading. It was people not liking change. That has nothing to do with money. The majority of people were upgraded for free anyway. Meaning this, if you bought a Windows 7 computer, you probably got Windows 10 for free. Microsoft didn't lose money on that. Yeah. You not wanting to upgrade had nothing to do with you not paying. And then people who had 10 went to 11 for free.
But we all know that companies don't like to do stuff for free either.
But they're not doing it free because I just told you 2 seconds ago they're the de facto operating system for the planet. That means that these major corporations that literally have thousands of laptops that they upgrade every 5 years are rebuying the software every 5 years anyway.
That's true.
So the whole subscription thing is kind of nutty to say that it would matter too much. If anything, the subscription model would make people not upgrade even more.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
They would stay even longer.
No, but
Why do you think I was at a music studio with a guy still running Pro
Oh
Tools
yeah,
HD7
on a G5.
on a G4,
Oh, that oof,
sir?
good God.
You know why? Because he ain't paying to upgrade to Pro Tools HD 11. He gonna run his old Mac G4 in the ground. He's gonna run his old Mac G4 into the ground because guess what? He can still record 128 tracks with all the plugins he wants, and it doesn't freeze.
No, I understand that.
Even on
I was
his
looking at it
old
from a
power PC with a 1.4 gigahertz dual core on it.
I was looking at it from the monetization point, right?
But what I'm saying is,
Apple
where is
monetizes their OS updates through hardware, right?
yeah, but
So
technically, so has Windows. You buy a new laptop, guess what? You just bought a new Windows.
that's true,
That's what I'm
but
saying.
it's the amount of time that's it's being supported.
Yeah, but listen. Here's the problem with the notion. How there's still more Windows computers sold than Mac computers. That means that technically Microsoft is winning in the subscription game already because they're already reselling the OS over and over, way more than Apple is, and they're doing it through multiple vendors.
That's true.
So I get it. If they just want to be even more billionaires than they already are, cool. If that's the notion, but to say they have a subscription issue and they need to find money is a joke. They don't need to find money. Now, if they're just greedy, that's a different conversation.
Well,
but people not taking free upgrades doesn't take money from Microsoft, sir. The upgrades
no,
are
but
free.
not Edmund. Not only that, Edmund, but Microsoft is more used than Apple is as far as
yes,
PCs go.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, but Apple is worth $3.3 trillion.
No, but Edmund,
yeah, but Apple, but look what Apple has to do. They got to make all that damn hardware to do it. If Apple didn't sell iPhones, which is a lot of work, them phones don't magically appear. Microsoft ain't putting out them millions, hundreds of millions of phones. You got to look at the money put in versus the money taken out.
That's true.
Microsoft just got back in the hardware game with the Surface line, and even that's barely a business. So
no, that's been experimented.
Yeah, if we look at effort versus the money made, it probably shows you there's a lot less effort going on at Microsoft. Not equal effort, but Apple just worth more. That ain't what's happening.
Yeah.
Microsoft is literally the only software company worth the kind of money it's worth on the planet, if you think about it.
No, but no radio. Also, keep in mind, Apple makes almost all of their shit.
Well, they don't make anything. They get the same people.
No, they get somebody else to make it.
But my point is, they're still having to finance the manufacturing process.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They're still having to finance that. Microsoft ain't doing nothing but making software. Everybody else is doing the hard work. So technically, Microsoft is probably more successful than Apple if you actually look at the energy put in versus what comes out. Yeah, Apple's overall number is bigger, but what is the investment they're making to make that money? I guarantee it's 10 times what Microsoft is investing in their software. So it should yield higher overall company value. But if we look at percentage of profit, Microsoft might even have a better profit margin than Apple. You actually look deeper in. Just saying, profit margin is the real measurement of success, not overall numbers. You could be, you could have bigger overall numbers. That doesn't mean that, you're just automatically making more profit. You're just doing more work, really.
Right.
No, but Edmund, even remember back then, people would have to pay like $200 or $100.
Yeah, for the license key. I mean, hey, I did it.
No, for the Office suite.
Yeah, but they went subscription model with that.
Yeah,
and only corporations are really paying for it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was always the weird thing. As soon as they went subscription model, everybody else was finding a free version. I mean, that's the reason why people use Google Docs. Is what they'll pay for the subscription model.
Well, I mean, not only that, but college students also get it free.
Yeah, but they get it free because the colleges are paying for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if they was not subsidizing it, guess where they'll be at? Open office. That's where they'll be at. If they had to pay for it, it'd be open office.
We fill a job application. Did they ever ask you if you're a Google Office experience? No, they don't.
No, they don't.
Admin, people that do their resume on Google Docs probably never get the job, sir.
I wouldn't say that. Maybe not open office, but Google Docs, you could probably get away with it.
I mean,
Google Docs is actually usable. I mean, it doesn't get enough fanfare. I mean, Google does support it for for a little bit, and they
um,
offer a paid for subscription model with that built in. So
So I guess just Evan, did you do any research to see if Microsoft is actually strapped for cash?
no, not necessarily. I haven't done that. I
So
haven't
where
done
did you
that.
get the mantra of that they may go subscription based? Was that just because everybody else is doing it and somebody wrote that in an article, or was there some
No.
scientific basis for it?
I was looking at the progression of other companies going subscription based.
Exactly. So you said, well, everybody
And
else is doing it, so they must
no, not
have to do
necessarily
it.
everybody else was
What
doing it,
I'm
but I
telling you
looked
is
at
that it's almost
even
suicide for them.
look,
It's almost suicide.
even for their own product.
Okay.
It's not. I don't think it was a
Yeah.
far fetched stretch
Are you ready
to
for the
say
sad truth?
that.
Are you ready for the sad truth?
What's the sad truth?
Let's play the game. All righty. What is one of the
Uh-oh.
most hated telecom companies on the planet?
Cable.
I said company, sir, not industry. Hated telecom on the planet.
Comcast.
Wrong. Most. I said
Ooh.
most. Who's the
AT&T.
most? It's AT&T.
Oh
Is AT&T going anywhere?
no.
All right. Well, here's your next line. People freaking hate Microsoft. Is Microsoft
Right.
going anywhere?
No.
No, because the basis of their business is that they're good at writing software. They may not always do the best things in their own software, but they're daggum good at it because half the apps that exist on Apple were written by Microsoft. Therefore, that company is going nowhere. No matter how much you hate Windows 11, no matter even if they did go subscription based, guess what? They may lose one business, they're just going to get another one. They're not going anywhere, and even they know this.
I understand.
So guess what
Admin,
happens when they go subscription based? Guess what actually ends up happening? You know what ends up happening?
What ends up happening?
A company like Dell, who has to sell laptops, is going to look out and see, dang it, they're going to go subscription based. Everybody's going to be mad. They're going to run to Apple and they're not going to buy our laptops anymore. So you know what Dell's going to do? They're going to subsidize it, so the end user still doesn't have to pay for it. That's the ugly truth. Because if you piss off enough of the customer base, it ain't just Microsoft that suffers. It's every manufacturer that uses their software. And it ain't like Apple about to let Dell, Asus, Acer, Lenovo. They're not about to let HP and everybody get Mac OS. So what do you think happens?
Now they're gonna find other means.
That's gonna be a civil war, and Linux ain't gonna fill the gap.
No, but Chrome
happen? You know what's going to happen? Only the major industries will end up in some kind of subscription base, and the other builders will subsidize the 10 or 5 or 10 years of so-called software support, just like we see on cell phones. That's what'll probably happen.
Hey, if it does happen, remember, people, Chrome OS is waiting for you with open
Chrome
arms.
OS is absolute trash, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And everybody in this room should send a pimps back in spirit to you for saying such a thing, sir. How dare you?
It's waiting for you with open arms.
There are better STDs, okay? So, anyway, the point is somebody's going to pay for it, and I guarantee it ain't going to be the end user. You bet your bottom dollar it ain't going to be the end user.
Oh, hey, look, I the reason why I made that stretch was because of Microsoft 360, Microsoft Office 360.
Yes, but once again, I just
when
told you,
when it went like that,
college students
people didn't
and
buy it no more.
So here's your problem, right? The college student gets it subsidized by the college. What does a college student do when they go off in the professional world? Do they keep paying for it, or does the company they get hired by pay for it?
The company they hired by
irrelevant
pay for it.
Then. That's why it's irrelevant.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, the college students are going to get it free through free to university because they already paid for it. They get a bulk deal,
and then the company they get hired by is going to pay for it when they go to work, which means Microsoft isn't gaining subscribers. The corporation is paying for a site license. They ain't paying for individual per PC license. They're paying for a site license.
Or you could pay $7 a month for it and then cancel it.
Shoot, even the company I'm working for, it's bundled, doing all that. They bundle it in with Intune, which is also under Microsoft.
Right.
Because we were under the IBM system where we were using IBM's MOS 360.
Yeah.
With Watson or whatever the crap that was.
Oh,
Well,
Watson. I don't
we
even
ended
know
up
if Watson's a thing right now anymore.
It was a part. It got integrated into the rest of the stuff. The point is, even that's getting dumped for Microsoft's Intune, which incorporates all the Office software, the Outlook, and all the security suite. They're incorporating all into one thing, and the corporations are paying for it, not the end users. There's no way Microsoft is about to get Jim Bob, who has a mechanic shop in Tuscaloosa, Mississippi, to pay for a subscription.
That's
It
true.
ain't gonna happen. He don't need Microsoft Word. He don't need Excel. He don't need Intune. All he needs is every now and then to look up,
he needs
on
PowerPoint,
his software
sir.
that he's on. Look, he's already paying a subscription for the mechanic software to look up trouble codes for manufacturers.
That's
He ain't
true.
about to pay Microsoft too. He'll just run an older version of Windows and laugh at him for daring to ask him about a subscription, which is why it won't work.
Mm.
And people like me will be happy. We will be happy because we have every single version of Microsoft already backed up. Here goes your Windows 7, Jim Bob. Here goes the patches you need to make the browser still work, sir.
Dang.
We already ready.
Hey, look,
it.
Look, I'm just saying, like, because me and Ian were talking about like Copilot, right? And with the whole recall feature, look, it could be used in nefarious reasons and used for monetization at it. That's kind of how we were going down that road, and that's why I said.
But that's something I said too, though, Keon. I told you that AI has been set loose on everybody right now, but I guarantee it's going to be behind a paywall later.
Oh yeah,
I said last week. I said last week. They're letting everybody have it now, but you wait. When these corporations actually have to start competing with small companies because so-called everybody has access to AI, those corporations are going to pay enough money to keep people out of the AI.
That's true.
Because if you tell AI what's the most efficient way to write a code, it ain't going to give you a different answer for the same code to the corporation or the little guy. You think the corporation is going to settle for the little guy having access to the best way to write every single line of code? No,
they're gonna
paywall that thing, and the corporation, you end up with the same line of code. And then the next question is, who owns that line of code? Do you own it? You ask the AI to write it. Do you own it? Does the AI company own it, or does who owns it? See the problem? At some point, you're gonna crash. AI. I like to know how Ian feels about that. What I just said.
I'm sorry, about what?
So I was saying, like, if you're a software developer, right, and you have a goal to meet, and you ask AI to make the code you just wrote the most efficient. Say that code is to do a specific task, right? Hey, AI, is this the most efficient way for this code to be written? And AI tells you, no, this is how you do it. Well, you and some big corporation across the planet is using the exact same AI, and you're asking the exact same question. Does the AI not give you both the same answer, considering that's supposedly the most efficient one?
Yeah, I don't know.
So my question is, when that happens, right? Who owns it now? Does the AI own it, or does the person that asked for it own it?
Yeah, and that's where this whole AI thing gets tricky. It's like, okay, where does the IP,
exactly?
Where does the IP lie?
Exactly.
And that's gonna be the problem with AI going forward. Is that and that's one. This goes back to the whole Scarlett Johansson thing, right? Like, they can use your likeness, your data, to build a model to spit out whatever result it is, but who has a stake in that then? Because they're pulling from hundreds of thousands of data points from individual contributors or a single person or whatever, and it's like this is where it's all gonna fall apart.
Yep. That's why I laugh when these people say, well, you won't need to hire a bunch of people now. AI will take over the workload and you can only have a small company, and your little company gets to compete with the big one. Bullshit.
Hey, look.
Whoever can feed the AI the most money wins. I don't care
Hey, look,
how creative your
you know what
drawing
it's going to
was.
be. You know what's going to be the crazy thing, and I think that we're going to hit this. It's going to be a reversal in computing. So, like, the least amount of computing is going to be more advantageous, right?
Well,
So, like,
basically, we're gonna seize the more computing power once we clean up a lot of the BS of human error.
right.
Yeah.
Well, no, even more than that. Like take Amazon for example. Amazon's supposed to have tried to come out with these stores that were like all no, there was nobody involved, and everything was camera based, and it rang you up as soon as you walked in. It knew you were shopping. They closed all of those down.
You just hit home, sir. Because I'm gonna tell you what happened to me literally last week.
Uh-huh.
All the Circle K's here now have these AI registers, and what they do, you don't scan anything. You just put everything on the counter, and the camera scans all the items and throws it on the price thing for you. Do you know that 10 times in a row I've had 2 of the same water on the counter, and it kept saying the other water was a different water?
What?
It was trying to charge me more for one water than the other when they were the same exact water.
Wow.
Removed all, so put it back like 10 times. It never corrected. A human still had to intervene and wipe it out and put it back in, which defeated the purpose. That shows you how far behind AI is. My human brain was faster than the AI because I can see the difference, the same exact water, but that machine just couldn't figure it out. No matter which way I turned it. And like, bro, these are the machines we're trusting. This is what they're
starting to
trusting.
see, but here's the thing, you're starting to see more self-checkout pop up in more places though. Like,
but this is a different self-checkout. Like,
in.
You're like regular self-checkout, you actually scan the items. But when I'm talking about, you don't scan anything. You just sit it there. You just literally sit it on the spot. Have any of y'all seen checkouts like that in your area?
I haven't seen
nothing like that. I was gonna ask, is it similar to what Amazon?
It's similar to the store, but it's like an individual register. There's the Circle K gas stations have these. It's like you walk up and it's like a light shining down. It's like a little overhead thing with a camera in it, and all you do is throw everything up there, and it instantly puts it all on the screen. Right? I've seen it be right so many times. But the other day, the bottles of water set it off. And you know what the cashier told me? He said it seems to do that when the item is clear, like water. The camera loses its mind when something that is clear is in its presence, like a bottle of water.
It could be depth perception.
Yeah. So like
it's got to be depth. Things. Like water, it looks clear, but it's not. It's like it must become like an optical illusion.
But the point is, the AI ain't even smart enough to realize that the 2 bottles of water were the same bottle. It said one was 20 ounces, the other one was 16. They were both 16. And they tried to charge me more. If I was just a dummy, I'd have just paid, not realizing I was paying 49 cents more for one of the bottles.
Already on a TVS, sir.
Now, you imagine that on a mass scale. Imagine that happens on a mass scale, and it's like 1 million bottles of water weighing up 49 cents too high.
Oh, you make a lot of money.
That's a lot of money to be.
That's a lot of money. Hey, look, it's the same thing with a lot of the self-checkout. I mean, like they put not like they know that they can ring it up. Like they know you can ring it up, right? But people will try to game the system. So they got to have all these security measures in place to hoping that you don't game the system. You know, putting multiple items into the thing when you only scan it one time. Like the giant I go to when I take my break, they have a lot of self-checkouts. And just like, I filled up the bag, and me moving the bag triggers the alarm. Like I need to put more stuff into the cart so I can go, and I've already filled that one bag up. I want to fill up another. It literally loses its mind.
Yeah, you're at the grocery store and they had that little bitty space, but you got more groceries than space to hold.
Right.
You can't fit no more. Like you said, you move one, and it goes, please put the item back that you removed.
Right. Yeah. And then there's a camera over top of you showing, like, yeah, I moved it. I'm not hiding the fact that I moved it, but it thinks that you did a sleight of hand. Look what you did.
Exactly. Oh, I've been there.
You did a sleight of hand. You must be trying to do something nefarious. We got to call the cashier over to check out what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's I know there's some airports now where they have convenience stores where you have to literally tap your card for you to go in.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that was the same thing that Amazon did, which was
Yeah.
they were leveraging all those cameras. It was like it was basically like a man's version of shopping, which I really wish they came to DC, but it never made it. It didn't leave the West Coast.
Well, I
But
watched one where the guy left the store and he had some tampons. Y'all
uh-huh.
see that one?
No, I didn't see that one.
It never rang the tampons up at the Amazon store.
Ooh.
So he technically stole the tampons. Now,
But they said it didn't matter. They said that the way that the camera system was, it didn't matter. You could have put it on the shelf, take it off the shelf, pull it from the shelf again. It will automatically just work.
But
I know a lot
problem.
of the
there are countries where people are getting a warrant for their arrest later due to stuff like this.
Oh no.
Yes. A lady, I think I want to say it was a Walmart where the lady did everything right, but the computer messed up. And later on, it said she stole something.
See.
Yeah, the camera said she stole something. The register said that she didn't. The camera said she did. She got drugged through the whole court process and everything, and she never did what they said happened. And they didn't stop her at the store. They literally took her picture, put her in a system, and then prosecuted her later. She was innocent.
Oh, that's crazy.
So that's the problem with these systems. You might say, "Oh, it run your water up 49 cents wrong." Well, a year later, that may be you stole that water on purpose because it rung it up too low. And you're a repeat offender because our AI system says you mismatched prices 100 times this year.
Oh God!
You see the problem? They're going to
the lawsuits are gonna be furious, boy. Good God!
They go back and audit it, and they come back and say, "Hey, you stole from Walmart 15 times." So you might think, "Hey, it didn't see the toilet paper. I scanned it. It didn't ring it up." And next thing you know, you done stole toilet paper this time, you stole a toothbrush that time, you stole, a microwave this time, and before you know it, you done stole 25 times because the computer's wrong.
Right.
There's your problem with it. It ain't the little shit that comes back.
It's okay to cheat you, but it's looking out trying to make sure you don't cheat them, and in return drag somebody through the whole court system just for a packet of Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
you took a packet of Kool-Aid.
I'll find it. I'll send it to you. I seen it. It was
okay.
I seen a story like that last week where some lady got accused of doing something. It was the computer was glitching. She got accused of stealing.
Dang.
Yep.
That's so sad. But we gotta do our damn jobs.
Well, understand that corporations don't want people to do the job. So the AI, the advent of AI makes it more appealing.
You know what that means, admin?
What
I'm gonna get my employee discount.
You're not gonna have you're not gonna be employed.
What's bad is these companies already only pay you enough for you to get food stamps anyway, which means the government still has to take care of you.
Which I mean, like I said, the whole
of having a damn job. But they say, go to the government, get a job, but then every job only pays you enough when you still need housing and food stamps. That's a joke.
Have you ever been to a busy Walmart where they just understaffed it on purpose?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's sad. Like, there's a store full of people. So, like, case in point, my family at the time, we used to go to Myrtle Beach all the time. And we would stock up, because we were staying there for a week. We would stock up. And the local Walmart and the whatnot is right over there close to Myrtle Beach. Yep. We go in there. It is packed to the brim. There are lines running. It's busy when the line goes through the clothing section, okay? And it's 3 cashiers.
Yep.
It's literally 3 cashiers. Look, they built it where you could have multiple cashiers, but it's only 3 active.
And all 3 of them got food stamps and housing.
But that's the crazy thing is,
and they got daycare benefits for their kids.
Yeah.
But that's more than they make at work in a month.
But that's the crazy thing is that we're getting to a place where artificial intelligence is being used on everything, which I understand. Like when Ian was talking about earlier, like yo, it just shouldn't be. But companies are the ones that's pushing this harder. It's not for us. You know, the AI is meant to make the S word better on the iPhone. But really, it's for Apple so they can say they have a toe in artificial intelligence. It's the new hotness. That's all it comes down to. What's the new hotness?
Well, you already seen, Keon, how they would make I think you saw it where they were like designing car parts.
Yeah.
They go in and put the parameters, and they would make a normal human ideal of the part, and they would throw AI at it, and AI would remove all the unnecessary pieces to make it lighter. You seen that, didn't you?
I ain't seen that. I need to see that.
Oh God, it gets deep.
Oh, yo, that's crazy. We're the foundation, and that comes in and cleans it up.
Yeah, you build the part that's structurally strong enough to do the job, and then they throw AI on top of that, and they would go in and remove any unnecessary pieces to make it as cheap as possible. So they're like, hey, well, we ran a simulation, and we stressed this part right here 600,000 times and found out that we could reduce it by 10 grams in this section. Next thing you know, you end up with a part that has like 600 holes in it because AI is just removing every little bit of any possible unusable metal.
Yeah. You know what? Toyota might be running to that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Toyota, because understand Toyota's reliability used to be off the charts, and now you're hearing about their Tundras not passing mustard because they all of a sudden changed the way that their engines were built.
Because AI
they could have been, and AI is probably fucking up their engines.
AI can be wrong.
I mean, Toyota was renowned for its reliability, and now you started like people. I read an article saying that dealers won't even accept a Tundra. Whatever year Tundra is starting to act up, they won't even take them back because they're that problematic. And that goes back to that, they probably built it in, so they built the CAD and built the new engine and built everything, and then use AI in return. They're like, oh yeah, all you gotta do is just shave out this and it'll be great. Throwing the balance off, throwing something else off, and then bam, all of a sudden it's throwing rods. So AI is not all it's cracked up to be. But hey, I want to say thank y'all to everybody who showed up. No Radio didn't have to come in, but he did right at the end. Brandon, thank you for stopping by.
No, but Edmund, one of the things about AI is that it's a very new technology, and a lot of things aren't going to be perfect, and it might get a lot of people into trouble because of something that they were accused of doing.
It's being relied on, thinking that it's going to catch everything. And that's the problem. My thing is what happens when they end up going after the wrong person?
We just already said that already.
Yeah, no. In reverse. See, not saying that you caught somebody wrong. I'm talking about going after the wrong person. So what happens when there's some famous person who decided that they want to be inconspicuous and they're wearing a baseball cap and walk into Walmart or Target or something, and they go into one of these registers that's AI generated, and it says that they stole. They have enough money to be able to fight and sue and fight back. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when you get a false positive and you false positive the wrong person? You might false positive the former president of the United States. What are you gonna do?
Or O.J. Simpson.
He's not with us no more. Leave him alone. Don't call that man. Don't rock that grave.
Yeah, AI going to the glove pit. Glove pit.
You're gonna say the glove. If the glove don't fit, you must have quit.
AI's gonna think OJ Simpson's still alive.
Hey, they still want to throw him in jail. They gotta resurrect him to throw him in jail.
I
But
feel like
hey,
AI.
look, that's the crazy thing about it. That's all. But hey, look, I am hungry. Y'all have already eaten. I have not.
You about to see some ramen, sir?
Actually, I am. You hit the nail on the head. I am going to eat me a bowl of ramen.
And play some
Now
Chromebook.
hey, my Chromebook is my media center for my television. It works perfectly fine. But thank y'all for stopping by. Greatly appreciate it. Ian, thank you for stopping by, sir. I don't know if he's still there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for stopping by, man. I greatly appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot. Thank y'all, and y'all have a very good evening.